I'm running this monkey for now, Frankenstein!
I know I'd go from rags to riches.
Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it. Barabelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
My fate is up to you.
Now, I'd be shitting my pants if I was you.
Top 100s are fun, lied Kirk. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to YLS. It's the top 100 scenes again. We're in the getting into the 50s. We're almost halfway through. Almost, not quite. You can feel that. Okay, Jack, you had your, I believe, first place win ever on YLS last week.
Well,
how you feel about that? Are you going to ride that momentum into the second half of the series?
First place ever in a top 100. I've had a few first places in like other YLS episodes, but in terms of the top 100, it was my first place, and I don't think I'll ever repeat that again this series. So, I've got some good scenes. A few that'll definitely could be yikes. I'm excited for this episode.
All right. Cody, last week, your first non-first place finish of the show so far. Is this your week you come back, or do you think that may be a sign of things to come?
No, I actually learned a really good strategy from Jack last week. I'm going to put a good scene on and not say shit about it and just let you talk about how much you love it, and that will help me win first place. So it should be a quick show because I'm not going to talk at all because it's going to be fun.
Jake is also here. Jake, is there any hope of things getting better this week? Any at all, please?
Yeah, I've got nowhere to go but up after the whole. Everyone has fiasco over having a Neil Breen scene on my list. I mean, but no, I think this is. I think honestly, like as far as a normal list from me goes, this is pretty normal. We'll see though.
And Scott, I believe you were in second place last week. That was your first time moving out third. Are you? Is the arrow going to continue to point up? Are you going to first this week? Do you think?
Not this week. I foresee some bumps in the road this week, and I guess some foreshadowing for our viewers. Definitely stick around to the end of the countdown for tonight, or better yet, don't, because it could get ugly.
All right. Tonight is 60 through 51. We are sticking with the standard your list sucks rules. Going to do our top three, our bottom threes, just you and me. Start with Jack. Jack, give me your 60 through 58.
All right. My 60 is the second Russian roulette scene from The Deer Hunter. My 59 is You Can't Handle the Truth from A Few Good Men.
Yikes.
Yeah, I figured. And my number 58, Smile, You Son of a Bitch from Jaws.
So clarification, I have a Russian roulette scene. I don't believe mine's the last one.
No, yours is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so never mind.
All right. This was Russian roulette, The Deer Hunter. This one was the hardest to decide between the first one and this one, but I went with this one because this is the emotional climax of the film. This is where Robert De Niro has gone back to get Nikki, to get Christopher Walken, and he finds him playing Russian roulette. And in order to try to get him back, he plays with him, even though he knows that one of them can't leave after they start playing. And it's just a brutal scene. There has been very few moments in film that have affected me as deeply as that one did, and it's phenomenal. Very incredible scene. 58. This wasn't Yikes, Smiley Son of a Bitch from Jaws. Okay, just double checking. Yeah, this scene's awesome. It's a lot of fun. This is the big showdown with the shark. It's just a hell of a time. I cannot not get excited while watching the scene. Every time he says the line "Smile, you son of a bitch," I cheer. It's incredible. One of the most just fuck yeah moments in a movie for me. Love it. Yeah.
Okay. 60. The ending of Deer Hunter, basically. Again, spoiler alerts for the show and this one in particular. This is a great scene. Kind of been spoiled that we will be talking about the other one here eventually, which is fine. But I think I'll probably wait till we get there so I can talk about both of them because it's hard to talk about one without talking about the other. So we'll hold off on that. You'll get credit for it, obviously, but we'll hold off on the conversation. And then 58 Jaws. Yeah, this isn't the Jaws scene I'd pick, but it's fun. It's a great climax. Him over just one of the things, many things I love about this movie is just him overcoming the fear. I love in the third act how useless his character is. There's a scene where he's talking to the guys and he's like complaining about something, and the movie fades out while he's talking. Like the scene fades out. Like he's so ineffectual that the movie doesn't even care what he has to say. And to see him like overcome that and finally, it's down to him, and he has to be the one to finish off the shark, and he's able to do it. I think is very satisfying. So that is your bottom three. On to Cody with your start with your number 60.
My number 60 is Mozart and Salieri, the composing scene at the end of Amadeus.
Yikes.
Okay. Next, same lines, same best picture kind of feeling. Number 59, Drop the Bunt from Major League. And probably won't talk about this either, but 58, Rushing or Dragging Whiplash.
Yikes.
I figured. Good. The one that I wanted to talk about tonight anyways, Drop the Bunt in Major League. Major League is like my favorite one of my favorite sports movies of all time. It's probably my favorite like sports comedy. And I just loved the first time I saw this movie, and like Major League's a ridiculous concept anyways, Cleveland being good enough to win like championships. Yeah, winning the World Series. That just doesn't seem possible. But when Taylor's up to bat and Willie Mays Hayes is on second, I believe, he starts to break for steal, and you think he like calls his shot. He goes up to the plate. A catcher not known for power, not known for hitting at all, goes up. He points, pisses off the entire team on the other side. The ball comes in. He's stealing second. He's stealing second to third. He drops the bunt down and has to leg it out, because if he doesn't leg it out, he's still out. But as soon as he drops, Willie Mays Hayes heads home at the same time. So it's like this motion and just like slow motion, his bad knees running it down, the score of it playing, and them being safe and winning the game. It's like an ultimate sports moment for me. To think that would end a baseball game, one of the most risky moves ever is like double steal basically and suicide squeeze from second, but it plays perfectly into the movie, and yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite sports moments in a movie, obviously.
Yeah, another great payoff scene where just the team has been kind of piecing it together, with spit and duct tape the whole season. And for it to come down to this and then just, pull something like this off and just like kind of a trick play, so to speak. And I love it's shot really well. Like it's a great like baseball cinematography. And I love just how the slow motion and when, hit the point and the reaction of the crowd and everything. And then when he actually drops the bunt, just the look on the other players' faces, like they didn't know what to do, and just how everything comes. It's a really great sports ending, like as far as like the actual sport being played. So I don't know if I'd put a Major League scene in my top 100 scenes, but if you do, this is the one you're probably going to do. Everything else got yikes. So we are on to Jake for number 60.
Already up to me. My number 60 is the train sequence from Mission Impossible. The first one, I don't know why it says Fallout. Anyway, number 59, Dr. Evil explains the Alan Parsons Project from Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. And number 58, the listening booth scene from Before Sunrise.
Yikes.
Figured. All right. The train sequence from Mission Impossible. This is my favorite of the Mission Impossible movies. I know that's like kind of a weird take, but I just like the simplicity that the first one has. And I think this train sequence is like really exhilarating, even from like back at the time. Like I think the effects hold up extremely well. I absolutely love the way Tom Cruise jumps onto the helicopter, and we get we bring back the red light, green light of the gum, the exploding gum, and just the shot of the helicopter exploding while he is forced back onto the train, and he is like a meter away from the camera. That shot is like just like in my brain forever. And you've got that close call where like the propeller blade like almost gets him in the neck, like that sort of shit, just like really good and just like fun, and it really adds to the entertainment for that climax. My 59, Dr. Evil explains the Alan Parsons Project from The Spy Who Shagged Me. This is just like really funny and sort of a microcosm of why Dr. Evil is such a like buffoon. The way he's in Spy Who Shagged Me, he's explaining how he's putting a laser on the moon and he has no idea of pop culture references, so he calls it a Death Star without knowing that Star Wars is a thing. And then he explains that he's going to call it the Alan Parsons Project after some like physicist, Dr. Parson. And you got Scott, who's just like, why don't you just call it Operation Wang Chung, you ass? And I'm pretty sure Operation Bananarama was already taken. You got that stuff. And then my favorite part is when number 2 just goes up and says, let's put away our family quarrels and let's get back to business. And you just got Dr. Evil's like, grabs the globe, bouncy ball, and just starts just throwing it at his face, a reference to Robert Duvall's movie, The Great Santini. And you just see they did it in one take, and Rob Lowe talks about how like he started just like laughing like profusely during the third time he gets hit, and it's just like really funny and just like a great visual part. And it's just like the whole part where Doctor was like, "You want to be daddy? Is that it? You want to be daddy?" And then just starts throwing it straight in his face. I lose it every time I watch the scene.
All right. And your 58 was yikes. Okay. Mission Impossible train sequence, good action scene. I kind of disagree with you though. I think the effects don't hold up that well, especially when now. And again, I think this is probably my favorite of the series too. I like when it was like a De Palma movie and like a slow burn kind of spy thriller. But as far as action sequences go, when you look at where they're at now, it's like it's all about the ultra realism. And you look back at this, you're like, well, that's you can tell how fake this is. Not that it looks terrible, but you can definitely see the lines there. And then Austin Powers. I'm not a big Austin Powers fan at all. I'm not a big Mike Myers fan, but Dr. Evil is definitely the highlight of that series. Like if I watch this movie, I'm probably gonna be sitting there with a straight face, except when Dr. Evil comes on. I think this is probably the best character that Mike Myers has ever done, and yeah, I just love when he's just how petty he is, and like just how stupid, and just like you want to when he throw the thing off his face, just like the little things he does. So yeah, again, Austin Powers not on my top 100, but if you're gonna do it, make sure you got Dr. Evil on there. So again, last one, Jake. So Scott, we are to you for your bottom 3.
Great scene.
I don't know, Kirk. You really think it's better than Mike Myers' character in Amsterdam? Pretty classic. All right, number 60 was a previous yikes. Was a previous yikes, and that it was the America scene from West Side Story. Not the original, the new one, the 2021. Sorry. 59. Because you had the 2021 one also, Jack, right?
Yeah, I had it 75. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Both had the incorrect one. Yes.
59 is from Troy. It's the scene where Priam comes for Hector's body. And 58, I have a different scene from Amadeus. This is when Salieri has the originals and is reading through them. All right, number 60, America. Yeah, so I am like a little bit skeptical about movie musicals in general, just because I think they're almost always inferior to the original stage product. You have to do something to make them cinematic. And also, they oftentimes replace the stage actors with Hollywood actors who are just not as good as performing the musical numbers. This movie is the quintessential example of how to do a movie musical, because it is incredibly cinematic, and the performers are all very talented, on the stage. Well, with the exception of one, obviously, but for the overwhelming majority of them are. And that's exemplified by this sequence, I think, which is this is possibly my favorite song from any musical, to be honest with you, America. And the way that this scene is shot is what for me makes this version of the movie slightly better than the original, that they're both great. It's just so expansive. It opens up this world so much. Like, they're walking down the street, they go through the market, they're walking through the boxing gym. It's just like they are in a living, breathing, vibrant community when they are performing the song. It doesn't feel like it is, still confined by its stage roots at all. You feel like you're watching a movie through and through. And obviously the performers, and in this case, David Alvarez and Ariana DeBose, are both phenomenal, singing and dancing. I mean, the choreography is amazing. The costumes are amazing. It's just a beautiful scene to look at. Like, I can't imagine even watching the scene and being like, and not coming away feeling like, yeah, this is what movies should look like. It is just one of those kind of movie magic moments for me, and when it all comes together, and exemplifies why I love this movie as a whole, and why I think it's one of the best movie musicals ever. Jack, I guess you jump in now.
Yeah, agree with everything you said. It does. I don't want to knock the original scene too much, but this opens up the world so much in comparison. I love Ariana DeBose and David Alvarez in this scene. Spielberg I am so upset that it took him this long to make a musical, and even more upset that he'll never make another one, because this scene alone is just one of the greatest things one of the greatest moments that he's ever directed, in my opinion. The costumes are gorgeous. I can't speak highly enough about how much I love DeBose in this film, especially in this scene. And yeah, one of the greatest songs from musical theater, in my opinion. So yeah, great moment.
All right, my 59 was from Troy. Again, this is a movie I defend, despite it not being super well received. I think this scene is an amazing scene, to be honest with you. The two things that I think really stand out about it are, number one, the writing. The screenplay is by David Benioff of Game of Thrones fame. And then the performance by Peter O'Toole as King Priam. This is when he goes to the Trojans' camp after, or to the Greeks' camp after Achilles has killed Hector in sort of their one-on-one battle, and he wants to request Hector's body back from Achilles. And it's an amazing scene that really exemplifies this movie. I think is ultimately about sort of the futility of war, the pointlessness of war, and this scene really is a great microcosm of that, because it's like, here's the Trojan king, right, and here's the Greek star warrior, and they're just sitting down and having a conversation and kind of musing on, what is this all about, really. And Achilles is saying, oh, well, I killed him because he killed my cousin. And Priam is like, well, how many cousins and brothers and their family members have you killed, Achilles? And ultimately it kind of ends up with him saying, we are still enemies. We're enemies today. We'll continue to be enemies, but even enemies can show each other respect. And it's also interesting because Achilles, his whole motivation is sort of like he is not on board with Agamemnon, who is the Greek king. And he kind of sees an example of what a honorable king looks like when he sees Priam. And again, Peter O'Toole is giving an amazing performance in the scene and movie. So I love it. 58, I had the Amadeus scene. So this is when Mozart's wife brings to Salieri a bunch of his compositions and tells him, hey, these are the originals. He doesn't make any copies, right? And Salieri picks them up, and immediately starts hearing the music. And it's got this kind of great tension to it, right? Because she says that about the originals, and it's almost like, oh boy, if he rips them up right here or whatever, which you could totally see him doing, here's all this music lost to time. But he can't bring himself to do it right, because he picks up the compositions, he immediately starts hearing the music, and it's like, wow, it's miraculous, as he ends up telling Mozart's wife. And it's flashing between him, obviously in the hospital, as an older man, like remembering this moment. And again, it's a perfect, like, 3-4 minute scene of what this whole movie is about, right? Which is that tension within Salieri of, he like despises Mozart as a person, and his attitude towards everything pretty much. But when it all comes down to it, he's like a far superior musician than Salieri will ever be. And as somebody who respects music, first of all, he like that just kind of takes precedence for him. So it might not be the scene that everyone picks. Obviously, two people had a different scene, but it's one that I think of because of how in just a few minutes it represents kind of the whole movie. And F. Murray Abraham is great in the scene, obviously.
Okay, West Side Story. It's hard to talk about without comparing, and maybe we'll get to talk about the other one. I don't know, but no, I'll just focus on this one. It is great. This is in my opinion, the greatest musical theater number ever, and they do some interesting stuff with it. It does go a lot bigger. It does go just like the rest of the movie. It goes more cinematic, and I think what they're doing, they do a great job. My one pet peeve I hate when musicals do this in general. Like the scene the part where she's like buying on credit is so nice, and they show her buying something. It's like, I know what buying on credit means. You don't have to show me that. But yeah, but it is good. Like just how big and everything gets. Again, we may talk about it a little bit more later. I'll end that part of the conversation there. Troy, I watched this movie for you last year for your top 100. And I really enjoyed it. I totally agree with you. They're doing both. This was like one of the greatest anti-war movies I've ever seen. Just shows like how kind of ridiculous it is that like how there's certain people who profit by it, and their reasons are petty and stupid, and all these people die on both sides. And it's the same people dying for the same dumb reasons, no matter what side they're on. I think this scene exemplifies that beautifully. I think Peter O'Toole's doing a great job here. Coming with that grief and that anger and everything, and he kind of like melts Brad Pitt. Achilles here has kind of just been like, he's the warrior. He's the that's what matters to him. His enemies need to die, and Prime finds that the chinks in that armor. I think this is a great scene that encapsulates everything that movie's about. And then the Amadeus, this is what it kind of does. Like, this is the flashy scene, but I think it really speaks so much to Salieri. He's like, just what's so great about this movie is just how he understands what Mozart can do better than Mozart does. And that's his whole curse, is that's all he can do is understand it. He can't do it himself. And this is the moment where he realizes that, like, exactly who and what Mozart is, and just and that sets up the rest of the movie, how that just eats away at him, how this person who has no respect for it, like Salieri spent his whole life respecting music and worshiping music and praying to God for this ability, and he sees it just wasted on this idiot. And so I think that what's so great about this character, like I said, this scene is perfectly encapsulates that. So that ends our bottom three. Gloves come off. Everybody gets to fight now. Going back to Jack, and Jack's number 57.
All right. My number 57 is My Wife Likes Me from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Oh, okay. This scene destroys me emotionally every time I watch it. And that's what I love so much about this film, is that it completely destroys you 20 minutes in, and then spends the rest of the runtime building you up. I think it was Cam that said that in one of his reviews. But this scene is just so great. John Candy is giving just the most heartfelt speech to Steve Martin, who John Candy is loud and annoying, and Steve Martin is kind of at his wit's end with him, and he says, "You want to hurt me? That's okay, if it makes you feel any better." But basically, just telling him, no matter what you think about me, that doesn't matter to me because my wife likes me, and that's all I care about. And it's just a beautiful moment that never fails to make me tear up. Great moment.
This is, I mean, John Candy, no one else. This movie shouldn't work with any two actors. If with any two other actors, it would just be kind of like a cheesy 80s comedy that everybody kind of forgot about. I think the two of them playing these types of characters are so perfect. I think John Candy had such a sincerity in what he did, whether it was comedy or, a little more dramatic or whatever. But I think that comes out so good here. And just with his, this is, just really like, because Steve Martin is just so mean to him and just beating him down. And it's like, yeah, I probably deserve this, but you know what? It's okay. It doesn't matter. Because like you said, my wife likes me. And then you find out, that everything you find out later makes this scene so much more devastating. But good pick. Not necessarily the scene I would pick from this movie, but still a pretty solid pick. Everybody else on this one?
It was on my list. I cut it because I don't, as much as I don't think the scene is that great. I think the 40-second moment when he says "I like me" is great, but overall, it's Steve Martin doing his normal rant throughout. He has better rants through this movie, so at that point, it's not like it can't take an entire spot for 40 seconds of like, and even then, it's like 30 seconds because he goes through it pretty quickly and he just moves on. There's just better scenes from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This is probably like the heart of the film, makes you understand who he is, but I can't have so many scenes of it. So, yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I have seen this movie. I like it. It's just been a while, so I can't really remember the scene exactly, but yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
And Boatman is correct. I have lived this too many times to appreciate it anymore.
Fair enough. Kirk's not here, but I'll go on to my 56, I guess. Okay, cool.
Here it is.
Yeah, my number 56, I Don't Need Any Prayers, from Yojimbo. I saw this.
Textbook pandering. Sorry.
Yeah, textbook pandering. Now we don't need to worry about anything else. So we know who's winning this week. Cool.
That's textbook pandering.
I'm sorry. I liked this movie long.
I doubt it.
Thought for the first time in film studies in high school, and it blew
Do you
me
want
away.
Kirk to talk about it? Do you want Kirk to talk about it over you, though?
Maybe if you won't let me talk about it, Kirk can talk about it.
Let Jack
But
talk.
I'll talk about it now. Yeah, no, this film blew me away the first time I saw it, and it was the first Kurosawa film I saw. It's the first time I saw Toshiro Mifune. I'm stumbling over my words. That's okay.
90% of the time, I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah, first time I saw him in a movie, incredible moment. Where it's to be fair, I am taking the full scene with the fight that leads up to the "I Don't Need Any Prayers" speech from the guy who's dying on the ground with his gun. The fight in and of itself, fantastic. It is a brief fight because Mifune just disposes of every single one of them like instantly, pretty much. It's in the intro for the show, and he finds one of the people that he's fighting is just like a young stupid kid, and he's like, "Go run home to your mom," and he like chases him away, and the kid drops his sword and runs away crying. It's really that moment is really funny. There's some dark humor in that scene, but then you get the monologue from the guy who's dying on the ground, who has the pistol, whose name escapes me at the moment. But then the guy comes out with the prayer drum and starts banging it repeatedly, and it's just a fantastic moment in this film. I can't talk about it enough. Every time it's one of the scenes from this movie I can just throw on at any time and watch and have a good time. It's a great moment.
Yeah. Fantastic pick. Don't let him say anything else to you, Jack. It's the intro of the show for the reason. Just the way this is shot, the cinematography, the framing, when he walks on, and the dust is blowing and the music's playing, and then you see it. I mean, this is the setup for every Western shootout you're ever going to see in your life. And yeah, like you said, like it has that moment, and just I love when he's approaching. And I love the character. I forget the character. His name Uno. I can't remember his name either. I just watched it, but him with his gun and how dependent he is on that gun, and how he has that pulled, how he just keeps walking on him, and he gives it a little gritty ducks, and he misses them, and this fight starts. Great fight scene, great sword play, and then just a really solid death scene where he's like, "Let me have my gun," and he gives it to him. He tries to shoot him. It takes forever to die. It's kind of funny how long it takes him to die. But no, fantastic pick, Jack. Everybody else on Yojimbo. The scene from Yojimbo.
I wonder how he got the idea to pick this as a scene. And I just can't wait to see what follows it. So, what beats this? What is better than the Yojimbo scene? It's going to be fun to see Kirk's headline explode. Overall, I've seen the movie twice. It's grown on me. I'm not a big foreign film fan, so it's a struggle most time. But it's a good movie. I just didn't think to add any from it.
I'm finally exploring Kurosawa, but I have not yet got to this one.
I have not seen this movie.
That's too bad. So,
all right, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, this is the scene that I was looking at this last night. I'm like, if there's any scene that hurts me, it's this one. However, I do think this is one of the most impressive technical achievements in the last 10 years, 20 years, I don't care. It's the Halo jump from Mission Impossible Fallout. I think this scene is great. I look the behind the scenes video for this scene in and of itself is one of the videos I've seen the most. And every time I watch this scene, I am astounded. It doesn't have like some great monologue that you'll see. It doesn't have like a well choreographed action set piece. It's just the absolute dedication to making this scene happen, and how they did it is worth a mention in and of itself. And I'm blown away every time I see it. This is just a brilliant technical achievement and great moments in film.
It's a good Mission Impossible scene. I mean, top 100. To be honest with you, I wouldn't put any of these on my top 100, so I'm not going to pick on you for this particular one. But yeah, it's there. Everybody else on the Halo jump for Fallout.
The way Jack was hyping that up, I was expecting the pinnacle of filmmaking and just a scene that just really represents the magic of the movies. And then this is a good scene, but I was severely underwhelmed by to be completely honest. It is a good scene, but it's a good stunt. But that's all it is to me. Just a really, really good stunt. So.
Yeah, I mean, not my favorite scene from Mission Impossible Fallout. That's all I will say. But it's a great one. I mean, I think so far you've chosen the second best set piece from the Mission Impossible movies that you've picked, which is even in even the second best set piece in these movies is better than most. So I'll give you credit for that.
I just find it funny that Ethan Hunt does crazy shit in a Mission Impossible movie. No, what? And this one he's skydiving. It's cool. It's awesome. I know. I mean, it is cool, but at the end of the day, he has picked both Mission Impossibles, and he's picked both scenes that are not the best from those movies, which is wild. And then you believe that Tom Cruise the scene is better than a Kurosawa film, and I want that on the record. So that's all I'm trying to get.
It's one spot. It could very well.
Then he should have put Yojimbo at 55. You put it at 56 and put Tom Cruise higher. Crazy.
Anyway, so I guess I'll just go on to my 54 now. My 54, We Are Not Your Brothers from 49th Parallel. This monologue in this film is fantastic. So for those of you who don't know what this film's about, it's a bunch of this film follows the villains of the story. It's about these Nazis whose submarine was blown up in the Hudson's Bay in Canada, and they're trying to make their way through without getting caught and killed. And they find themselves at a Hutterite camp, a Hutterite settlement, and they're welcome there. They're dressed as like normal travelers so that they don't attract any attention. And they realize that the Hutterites there are mostly of German descent, and so they see this as like an opportunity to try to get their support and their help. But after the leader of these Nazis gives a very stereotypical Nazi propaganda speech that you've probably heard before. The leader of the leader of the Hutterite colony very calmly and collectively just looks at them and gives this scathing monologue telling them, we may be Germans, but we are not your brothers. And it's just one of the most just hell yeah moments in an early in like a classic film for me. I love this film. I watched it earlier this year, and I fell in love with this scene. I rewatch the scene often. It's fantastic.
I haven't seen this movie, and to be completely honest, I really didn't know much about it going in. So I didn't get a chance to actually watch the film, but I watched the scene out of context. I appreciate you giving the context for it. But no, it's good. Like, it just has like, it's shot really well. It's just one of those things that you think about in the era it was filmed, when this was actually going on, or very recently had gone on anyway. I think it's was going on. Okay, I see the year. I wasn't sure what year it came out. Yeah, like you said, like it's just the guy standing up, and it's not like a shouting thing. It's not like, hey, get out of here. There's no violence or anything. It just hit like here's why. Like, he lays it out like, this is why we're opposed to everything that you believe. It doesn't matter that we're German, that we have the same ancestry. Here's everything that's wrong with what you said. And here's everything about our world and our community that rejects that. So I think it's a very great like thesis statement for that kind of thing. Anybody else seen this one?
I cannot see this movie because this movie doesn't exist. So.
Sounds like something I would like, but I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. So, my 57. I went with the T-Rex breaks out Jurassic Park. If there was a moment I could go back and experience in the theater, it'd probably be this one. What he's able to create in this scene with the sound, the water, the tension growing between both cars, and the cable snapping and the T-Rex showing up on the screen for the first time. I think it's just absolutely incredible. Only thing that would make the scene better if the kids did get eaten. I still believe they shouldn't have made it out of the first one, and I'll stand by that. Those kids, there was no natural consequences for any of their actions. But overall, like, when you see the light coming from the car and you just see the T-Rex walk in and the eye gets close to it, it's just some of the best shots. That there are movies that come out today that don't look as good as this movie. And I think it's just a brilliant, like, basically terrifying 9 minutes with the T-Rex showing up on the scene and them trying to get him away, and the ending of them sliding down. I think, again, this is one of those scenes that I wish I could see in the theater, like, without ever seeing it before.
No, I feel the same way. I wish I could go back and see it again, because I enjoy Jurassic Park. I don't have the connection to it that a lot of people do, and I think the problem is I saw it at the exact wrong time. Like, I was too old to be like, oh, cool, dinosaurs, but I was too young to like fully appreciate like what was happening from like a filmmaking level and a technical level. obviously I appreciate that now, but I don't have that visceral connection a lot of people do to it. So I wish I go back and rewatch it, see, because it's great. Just the bouncing back and forth between like practical and digital, and just the way, just like you hear that story about how like the window wasn't supposed to fall out, and how their reaction is real. And just so many little things like that, and just the way they've built, they set up the T-Rex to this point, and finally get to see him. And there's that perfect amount of showing and not showing. So yeah, just a really well constructed scene. Everybody else in the T-Rex scene, Jurassic Park.
I mean, this is a great scene, yeah. I mean, Malcolm makes just calm his tits because, like, it's not one of my favorite scenes of all time. That doesn't mean that I don't understand and appreciate the scene. But yeah, no, this is a great scene, and I think the effects are like incredible, and like it still holds up to today. But I think it's a great scene. Just don't want it to have it on my top 100 because it's not really a favorite scene.
Yeah, not my favorite scene from Jurassic Park. Still to come, but I do love this movie. I'm glad you picked this scene because I was a little concerned about people picking the like "Welcome to Jurassic Park" scene or whatever, and I don't like it as much just because it doesn't show the dinosaurs being as scary as they actually are, and obviously that's what the sequels have freaking gotten away from now and turned the whole franchise into a laughingstock. So I'm glad that you picked this scene, which is actually like incredibly scary and tense, and what the movie gets right, among many other things.
This scene, among other scenes from Jurassic Park, were absolutely in the running for my list. Made early drafts, but they fell off. So yeah, good pick, Cody.
All right, 56.
Don't thank me, Jack. Don't compliment me. 56. The Battle of Wits, Princess Bride. I will save everybody. I will not try to quote or do anything from the scene because I think it's absolutely brilliant, and it's the two people that perform in the scene. Basically, him mixing up the powder in the cups, and then Wallace-Shawn like going through all the things of why he is like why you can't like trick him, why he's so smart. You know, the land war in Asia, and never mess with. Don't mess with a Sicilian when death's on the line. It's just some of my all-time favorite, like, back and forth in a film. And then how it ends, he's like, well, I've been putting it through my, taking a little bit each time and becoming a meme to it. It's like such a brilliant, because this movie's so it's one of my favorite fantasy movies of all time. It's a movie that I've watched since I was young, and just to see like the thing about the scene is the pacing and like the comedic timing between both of them, to not like the pauses are perfect, like everything's lined up to make it hilarious throughout. Because this movie has got such a ridiculous elements all the time, and it's one that still to this day I know what's coming, and I still am excited to see it play out every time, which is a telling of a great scene. So yeah.
It's hard to pull this out as just its own scene because I think it's so the three challenges, so to speak, of between the sword fight, the fight with Andre, and then this, like, it's like the skill, the brute strength, and the intelligence. So to me, those are all connected. But yeah, I think it's great. I love the music, like the musical beats when he's like switching the cups, things like. Just
I figured if I included all of them, you would have voted against it.
No. I no. It's a legit pick. I'm just saying, like, it's hard for me to say like just this. Look at separate this from the other three. But it probably is the best one just because of the comedy. It's so entertaining. And Wallace-Shawn is just so good at it. And just that death scene where the ha 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 and he falls. So yeah, I mean, again, this is another movie you probably could have picked a couple different scenes. This is a pretty good pick. Everybody else on Battle Wits.
Yeah, I love this scene. It's probably my second favorite scene in the film. It was definitely in the running, but not what I went with.
I'll just say that I think the scene's good. You're mute, Scott, by the way. I do like the scene. I think it's good. Just that's it. I think it's great.
My bad. This movie just doesn't hit for me the way it does for other people. I'm not big into fantasy type stuff. I watched it one time as a kid, have never come back to it. I'm sure I would appreciate it more nowadays, but I just don't have that relationship to it that a lot of people do.
All right, Cody, what is your 55?
I don't think I'll be. Well, okay, there it is. I don't think I'll be talking about it, but it's Chest Buster from Alien. Or maybe I will. That's great for me. Awesome, perfect, cool. I am one of the least people that will ever talk about practical effects versus CGI and like the master of film and ever like that ain't me. Beginning, middle, end plot guy. That's my kind of cup of tea. The first Alien. I was back and forth for a long time on Alien and Aliens and stuff like that. I believe Alien is by far the superior film, and the reason why I think this is like a brilliant horror movie. Like, again, I'm not a horror fan. I would not seek them out, but when what they're able to create in this movie is insane. And John Hurt's performance in this scene alone is like crazy. He goes from like eating, laughing, joking with everybody to like misery in like seconds. And the practical effect of it coming out of his body and him like acting like it's coming out is just some of the scariest shit that I've ever seen. Like some of the horror that I don't really like, and like when you can't see stuff, like it's not there, you just have to like assume. And when it bursts through, it's very uncomfortable. It's not like, but when I was thinking horror and made me like feel like absolutely terrified, it's this scene right here that I had to include.
Oh yeah, this is fantastic. One of the great things about Alien is before the alien action starts, it's just like a really great hangout movie. You have the crew and the Nostromo is just such a great cast. And that's one of the strengths of the movie in general, is the supporting cast. Just it's them hanging out and just kind of relaxing and having their meal, and then this just explodes. And you hear the stories about how they say that they didn't tell the rest of the crew what was going to happen. This was a surprise to them. I don't know how true that is, but you feel that, like it feels like this is a genuine surprise to them. You get that shock and that horror, and their reactions are just as horrified as it's actually happened to them. Having to watch this happen.
When the blood bursts the first, and you see everybody like stop and pause and like look at it, you almost get that feeling they had no idea what was coming, because it's like they all like do an absolute pause. It's insane.
Yeah, but no, this is a fantastic. As you said, just one of the greatest examples of practical effects, and just like you said, like that body horror element to it. Really solid. I'm surprised nobody else had this. Anybody else would explain their reasons why?
I mean, this is a great scene. I just was, let's go back to the Jurassic Park argument. I just wanted to pick scenes that I love, that I have a connection with. This is a great scene, and this would probably make the top 100 best scenes of all time, but just not my personal top 100 favorite. But yeah, I do remember watching this back when I was, I don't know, 9, 10, maybe 11. And just that whole sequence playing out and not knowing what to expect. And knowing what the alien would eventually look like, the xenomorph would look like, but not knowing this is how it starts for it. And remember just that, definitely remember that scene quite well. I think it's a fantastic scene and one of the best horror death scenes ever. Honestly, just the way it's played out. So yeah, no, I think this is a fantastic scene. So it's good to be on the list.
Yeah, just like horrific, honestly, to watch it play out. And, I'm somebody who always thinks that like the fear of the unknown is often like some of the scariest stuff in horror movies. And you get a little bit of that in this scene. But ultimately, I think this is one of the rare examples where like actually revealing the thing itself is actually the scariest part. Because seeing what it looks like, the way it manifests itself, it really is, even beyond how your wildest nightmares about how this thing could possibly manifest itself. So it's an iconic scene for a reason.
Yeah, no, this scene's great. Nothing against it. It's been a while since I've seen the film. Have to rewatch it. I considered putting it on the list, but ultimately didn't. So yeah, no, good pick.
Cody 54, I think.
I wish I played this better. I did not play this out better. I thought it was going to be the week after, but it's going to happen regardless. So coming to Multiplex on Monday next week is the Roundtable episode 2. It features this movie. It's Night of the Hunter. It's Leaning on the Everlasting Arms scene. I love this film. I love it. I brought it up on the I bring it up on the Roundtable. It's my movie of the month, basically. And the way this was shot and the creepiness element of this scene just plays so perfectly. Basically, Robert Mitchum is sitting outside on a tree stump and singing this song while the kids are asleep inside. I don't know who plays I can't think of who plays the like the aunt or mom or who. I guess it's the aunt, grandma. I don't know the relationship off the top of my head, but she's sitting there with a shotgun and guarding the house while he sings this in such an eerie way. And then she joins in and sings like the different version of it, like different part of it, and and they're counteracting each other until the part of the scene where the girl walks up and she has a candle. There's a shot where she's sitting in the chair with a shotgun, and the outside you see him sitting there, and it's like they're so close but yet so far away. And the little girl walks up with the candle, and it's over Robert Mitchum. And when the candle gets blown out, he's gone, and you have no idea where he went. But the song is still eerie. Like the thing they do in this entire movie is his voice like carries everywhere. Like he'll be riding across the town, and you'll hear him like singing, and they're like, does he ever give up? And this is just like one of those feelings that the movie, I suggest anybody go check it out if you haven't checked it out. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Watch it, and then you can watch the Roundtable and hear our discussion on it. But yeah, this is my scene.
Yeah, this is the best scene in the movie, and he's in there. I think Lillian Gish actually, I think, plays the grandmother. She's the one who shot him.
Yeah, the silent.
And she's so good because the thing you didn't mention is he's singing this song, and it's like he's basically like taunting them with it. Like he's like this, like him say like, and the whole thing he's pretending to be a preacher, like he's taking on his facade, but he's like this murderous criminal. But he's led people to believe that he's this virtuous man, and he's kind of like he's taunting them, he's mocking them, and he's singing this song, and it's terrifying. But the great thing is that she starts singing along with him, and it's such a great moment because it's like she's like, okay, you want to play, let's play, and so so he's singing, and she starts singing right back to him. And it's like it's like such like a badass moment of her being like, yeah, I'm not afraid of you, but also it's her reclaiming everything that he's like made a mockery of, with this guise he's taken on. So I just love that moment so much. And then, like you said, the light, the camera comes out, or the candle comes out, and washes everything out, so she can't see him anymore. That he's gone. The next like phase of the story happens where. We've got to figure out what he's going to do next. But yeah, it's just haunting. And like I said, Lillian Gish, they're both great in this. Has anybody else seen this? And if so, do you have any comments on the scene?
Unfortunately, I have not seen this movie.
Me neither. Want to.
So I got to watch it for the Roundtable because it was Cody's pick. I've been wanting to watch it for a long time. It definitely lives up to the hype. It's a fantastic movie. You can hear me talk about it more on the Roundtable, I guess. But I agree, this is the best scene. I think everyone else has kind of hit the points of why. The way that he sort of is appropriating the hymn, the religious hymn, the way that he is also appropriating the figure of the preacher throughout the entire movie when it's really harboring something more sinister. And then her, who we learn is the more devout, the more prime example of what faith is supposed to look like, singing the song as well. You get the dichotomy there all in one scene, and it's well shot, it's well acted, it's creepy, it's an amazing scene.
All right. Jake, Jack, have you seen this one?
No.
Okay. All right, so we're going to bounce back over to Jake then with Jake's number 57.
My number 57. I promise, guys, this will be the last Booksmart scene. I just promise you right now. Molly and Amy fight from Booksmart. Yeah,
Is this the one I hinted at last week?
Yes. So I know it's crazy to have 3 scenes from Booksmart, like very easy, quick succession. But I just love all the scenes, and they also kind of play out pretty similar. Like the whole sequence at the club, I think is great. Yep, that's true. But this scene is definitely maybe my favorite scene. It is my favorite scene from the movie. Is he just show up in the chat every time someone says Booksmart?
Yes, he does.
I love the way this starts. So
he's had way too many opportunities to do it, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. From last scene, the last scene we had, which is from last week, Amy catches Ryan and Nick making out in the pool, and so then she realizes, oh shit, we have this incredible one-take sequence where she gets out of the pool and goes through the house, and you see that there's hidden cuts, but the camera operator is the same guy who was on Birdman. I just wanted to shout him out, and the fact that Olivia Wilde was influenced by that movie for this film. You see her go through the house trying to find Molly, and then she finds Molly, and Molly's having a time of her life. She's playing games with Nick, and she's having a good time finally. And then Amy's like, we got to go. Like, this is, I want to leave. Like, let's leave. And then she calls Malala, and Molly's just like, no, like, we're happy here. Let's just, you got a little bit wet. Let's just have a good time. And then she's like, no, I'm saying Malala, why don't you listen? I do everything that you say. And then it starts to become this argument, like actual argument between these two friends who throughout the entire movie, you know how close and how great they are as friends. And this is finally like the moment like it sort of breaks for both of them. And that's when Amy reveals that she's not going to Botswana for the summer. She's going there for the year. And so that's just like, that just screws up Molly's plan of like going to DC and all that sort of stuff. And Amy's just like, that was your plan. That was not my plan. And like, I always do everything that you want me to do. I just want to do something for myself. And then as the scene plays out, the music's pretty silent, and the people in the background, as they get louder and louder, you start to see their flashlight on their phones just pop up throughout the scene. They start recording, and the music comes back in as just a somber piece of music. And this is all still done in that one take style, and it just goes through, and as point they just get louder and louder, and it just becomes more of just an argument against each other, saying you're a bad friend, just that sort of stuff. And then as a point, the dialogue just cuts out, and there's no sound from them, and it's just them. You just see them just arguing. You don't know what they're saying. And Olivia Wilde says in the commentary, like, they had dialogue for that scene, and that was all played out. But then at a point, she was just like, let's just get rid of it. Like, at this point, it doesn't matter. They're just arguing. And I think that's just a really good director's decision, a choice that the director can make just to give you enough information without over-explaining it. I just think that's why I really like her directing in the movie. And it just ends with Amy running off and going to the bathroom. And I just think, as a scene, it's played out so well. And we've seen that scene in so many movies. But it's true. But this is a scene that is presented in a different way. And I think that it's a really fantastic scene. So, yeah.
Let it be known that Garth has taken credit for Don't Worry, Darling.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Be careful, Garth.
Yeah. See, Cody, this is where we're at. You give Jack a hard time because he has trouble articulating his thoughts on one of the greatest movie scenes of all time. But then we have to listen to Jake drone on for 4 minutes about a really forgettable scene from a pretty forgettable movie. This is Jake watching the third act of Booksmart is like the Vince McMahon meme. It's like karaoke, a swimming pool, they fight. It's just, I mean,
yeah, pretty good.
Roasted.
But yeah, no more Booksmart, Jake.
That's it. I swear it's done. It's
you
done.
Sure? Because we're not going to go to the graduation scene next.
I promise.
That's actually might be the best scene. So,
But
yeah, there's so many great scenes.
But anybody have any thoughts on this scene? Another scene from Booksmart.
So when the pool and this combined is what I would consider like a really great scene, but I put them together because I don't watch Booksmart all the time. And the problem is, and you brought this up to me. Yeah, I understand. Jake talked a lot for Booksmart. The thing is, at the end of the night, you're not going to give Jake the win. You gave him the win. You gave Jack the win. So that's the problem in the theory. So, yeah, good scene. I like this scene, but I combine it with the pool scene, and that's what I think of. And I guess they're two different scenes, but I like it that way.
Yeah, this scene is fantastic. I do really like it. I've been meaning to rewatch it, but then I saw Don't Worry, Darling, and I don't really want to watch Olivia Wilde movies right now, so we'll see.
Might be a 5 minutes late with that one.
I don't think I have anything more to say. I really like Booksmart as well. This scene is good. Wouldn't obviously not on my list. It's a good scene in a movie that is good. Period.
All right, Jake, what else you got for us?
All right. So this is one of my favorite action movies ever, and this is my favorite action scene from this movie. Back when The Rock was still trying to you should be ashamed, trying to become a legitimate actor, showcase his talents. He made a movie called The Rundown, which I will say is a underrated action film forever and should be talked about more often because it is like legitimately fantastic action scenes. The Rock versus Spinning Tarzan Jiu-Jitsu, don't forget that, as Sean Scott says. This scene is just like the fucking best thing ever. I love this scene so much. The Rock and Sean Scott have been captured by the rebels in the jungle, and Sean Scott knows the rebels and is like, hey, this guy is actually working for Thatcher. He's working for Christopher Walken. You should find him. You should beat him up. And so they have this one-on-one fight. I can't remember the actor's name. I'm sure Michael put in the chat, but it's the guy that was in Surf Ninjas. He's like an actual skilled martial artist. And he actually, remember we were talking about, I think we were talking about this guy. I can't remember. But anyway, and during the scene, it's speed versus strength. You see, The Rock is just like the most durable guy ever, biggest guy, and you have these small little guys who are just doing a bunch of flips and martial arts shits. There's that one shot where the guy just unlevels 100 punches into him in 5 seconds. The way it just starts with all these guys just beating the shit out of The Rock as this wire work, he just hits into a tree. They force him up into a tree, and there's so many great stunts, and there's a point halfway through when The Rock takes back and starts just taking over. I remember watching this scene for the first time 10 years ago or so. I just remember thinking, holy shit, why do people not talk about this movie as often as they do? And honestly, and I just think that the scene is just the perfect representation of the action in the movie. Thank you, Garth. Any Race Jr.
Yeah.
And I think more people should talk about it and should watch the scene because it's just it's so much more impressive than people give the movie credit for. And through the action, I just think it's a highlight. So people please watch this movie. It's underrated.
It's really not, Jake. This scene is it's not good at all. The action is okay. It's the editing is terrible. The scene is edited like Liam Neeson climbing a fence.
It's not that bad. No,
it's awful. You don't see any blow go from pull back to hit. Everything is just chop. You talk about this. There's no stunts in this because he's swinging and then they cut to
he falls from the tree.
Yeah, it's cut 4 times. Everything
That's
just
not,
cut. This editing is terrible. It has video game physics. It has there's no reality to it. There's no base reality to it at all. They just keep kicking the Rock. These little guys just keep kicking Rock up in the air. And it's kick and then cut to the Rock in the air, and then cut to him getting kicked again, then cut to him in the air. It makes no sense. It's really, really bad filmmaking, actually. It's a bad scene. I don't even know how you consider this good, let alone top 100 scenes of all time. It's pretty hard to watch. Everybody else on the spinning Jinzitsu scene, whatever.
Nah. No.
Haven't seen it.
Garth, they may have done great stunts, but in the editing room,
you were just saying they was bad.
No, well, Garth is telling me
that there were no stunts.
Well, there may have been, but they're not. There may have been stunts on set, but there's none in the scene because they get chopped.
Okay, so here's the thing. This is no Walking Tall, which is The Rock still in WWE best movie.
I don't know what that means. Walking Tall sucks. What are you talking about?
Walking Tall is a great movie. Man gets a 2x4 and just beats the shit out of people in a small town over a casino. It's great. This movie, oh boy. I saw this movie way too much when I was younger because I was still into WWE. So anytime The Rock was in something, that means you have to watch it. The physics in this scene makes 0 sense. 0 sense. His body should be broken in like 7 spots. He gets sent into the air like 50, like 30, 50 feet in the air and falls through a bunch of trees and lands on his back. He also gets like swung at one point, drop kicked and kicked again, and he goes all over the places. My favorite scene is The Rock ends up like on his stomach or whatever, or his back. He ends up flipping around and taking both of his feet and kicking backwards at 2 people. I watched the scene while you guys were talking. By the way, I watched it while you and Jake. There are so many cuts. This thing is like those families or those birthday those school parties where some mom buys like 2 pizzas, and they cut them into like 16 or 18 slices, and you get like a sliver. There's so many cuts. It's not even a scene
anymore. As bad as like the Olivia Megaton.
He calls him Kansas City at one more time too. Like, what up, Kansas City? And I think he still rock bottoms him at the end, which is like the proof that his move always works. So it's Christopher Walken's pretty good in this movie if you really include him. But this, no.
You definitely picked up for like.
I've got enough to say about the movie. I don't remember the scene.
If I ever win that Oscars bet, I'm gonna make someone watch that movie. So we'll see how it goes.
I still have the right. Tell me who you want.
I'm still waiting for that. Yeah.
I still have it, so tell me who you want, and I'll give it to him.
We'll discuss it later. So I guess we're up to my number 55.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we've had a couple of scenes from Collateral, and I've got one more, which I think is the best scene. It's also the shortest scene, maybe. It's probably the shortest scene on my list. What's that?
Yo, homie, is that my briefcase?
Is that my briefcase? I mean, that's a great scene, but no. Paul fucking says it all the time. I love him, but yeah. I'm talking about the coyote scene from Collateral. This is just a very simple scene where Max and Vincent just driving after. I believe this is after the nightclub scene, or maybe I'm pretty sure it's after that scene, maybe before. And they just stop on a road, and you just see a few coyotes just walk through, and then you have fucking Audioslave play. What's the fucking song? Shadow on the Sun play. Completely just of the time of 2004, the type of music that would play. But just this small scene between Vincent just having this look and seeing the coyotes. They just have like this, just a little bit of a stare down, and then that's it. And then they just walk out. And that's it. Just pretty much just represents what the movie's about and how there are some people who are the hunters and some people are the hunted. And the coyotes just walking through Los Angeles. It's just like a really fantastic little scene and just like a great idea. I completely forgot about the scene. When I rewatched it. So when it happened, I was like, fuck, that's just a really cool idea. And I like that Michael Mann just had something like that. They talk about how they would just drive through Los Angeles early in the morning, and then eventually they knew they would find coyotes, so they were able to film that. I think it's just a really nice small little scene. It's just, a little bit of brevity for the movie, especially after the action that's just happened. So it's really nice and beautiful. So yeah.
It's been a while. I've been meaning to rewatch this, and especially for a show because you guys have less scenes than if I just haven't had a chance to. And it sounds cool, but I don't remember it. Like you said, it's pretty fast, so it's probably just like a blink and a miss kind of thing, maybe. So I don't have much on this one. Anybody else have anything on this scene for Collateral?
I forgot about the scene until you started talking about it. Not one of my favorite moments in Collateral, but it's a good moment, but not top 100. I
just don't know how you could include this scene over the rest. I rewatched the scene because it's a minute scene, and like it felt 2004. I don't know why this one ranks so high for you, but you know what? You have taste in movies that are different than mine, so you know that's fair.
Yeah, this is the most Michael thing that you've ever done, which is basically just to pick a scene that is just Audio Slave playing in the movie.
Wasn't
I
my
happen to know
choice.
that if Michael had been on the list, he would have had multiple scenes that were just like a minute long of a band playing in a movie. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's cool in the context of the movie. It's not a scene that I think about outside of that really, or think about for the purposes of this type of list, but it's a great movie. So, shout out for that reason.
Okay, that was your 55. So 54, Jake.
One of the greatest comedic scenes that's been ever put to film. I'm a big fan of Trainspotting, and no one ever talks about T2 Trainspotting. T2 Trainspotting, underrated masterpiece. There's one standout scene, the No More Catholics Left scene from T2 Trainspotting. Mark and Simon have gone into this pub, and it's run by, it's filled with Protestants. And they're still relishing over a victory against the Catholics back in 1690. And they basically have a scam where they're going to steal all their credit cards. And knowing them, they're probably just their code's going to be 1690. So they just want to steal a bunch of money. So they're going through, stealing all the cards. I know exactly Cameron was going to bring it up. And as they're about to leave, the bodyguard, the fucking, security guard stands and says, hey, you need to play a song before you can leave. So they're like, fuck, what do we do? So Simon's on the pianos. He doesn't know how to play, so he just plays like a really basic key. And Renton's just like, I'll just improv. We have this scene where they like kind of fuck up, and then they realize, oh wait, let's get these people crazy about it. And so they just go, by the time it was over, there were no more Catholics left. And then you have this like 5-second like moment of silence, and they just don't know what's going to happen. And then the entire audience starts cheering over this, like just saying that there are no more Catholics left. And they just keep saying it over and over again. And it just gets everyone going crazy and jumping up and going to the beat. And it's just really funny the way it plays out. And then it ends with them leaving and then just stealing a bunch of money from ATMs. I also just love the way the scene opens. Simon tells his girlfriend Veronica, if we're not back in an hour, call the cops. And then Veronica's like, what should I tell them? And Simon's just like, just tell them we're dead. And I think the scene's really really funny, and no one talks about T2, and I just wish people saw the movie and realized how kind of like unappreciated it is, because it was a secret masterpiece.
Okay, first of all, on this show we call the movie Trainspotting 2 because there's only one T2. But I have never seen either of these movies. I watched this scene out of context, and I enjoyed it in that. I enjoyed it out of context, just watching because it is funny, just the two of them up there trying to come up with this, and Ewan singing and getting the crowd into it. I always like those scenes in movies. They're always fun, where it's like you got the crowd against you, and then you figure out a way to get them on your side. And then the scene that I had access to kind of ended with them like taking the credit cards, so I didn't know what was happening on there. But like I kind of wish I'd known more. I probably would have enjoyed the scene more if I understood that there was like a kind of like a crime element to it, heist element to it, whatever. But no, it's fun. Those two are what's the name of the other actor?
John Lee Miller.
Yeah, they're both really good in it. So fun scene. Anybody else seen this? Anybody else got
I haven't seen either of the Trainspotting movies, and I really want to.
No.
Yeah, I'm just gonna assume Holtzman is talking about Terrifier 2 and not the other one. But anyway, I have seen this. I definitely recommend the movie. I also think it's a lot of fun and underrated. And yeah, I've only seen it once. So I had forgotten about this scene, but then when you mentioned it, it instantly came back to me. And yes, it is one of the more fun scenes in the movie. And just the idea that they're gonna half-ass this song, and all you have to do is really say "No More Catholics," and you can just turn it into, this entire bar going crazy. So it's a funny idea and a funny execution. Good movie.
All right,
but not better than Terminator 2.
Scott, we're coming back over to you for your 57 now.
All right, my 57 is the confronting the shark scene from The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. So, of course, sort of the setup for the movie is that Steve Zissou has made this documentary in which one of his crew members was killed by this jaguar shark, right? Which is this thing that you're not even really sure whether it actually existed or not. And he, sort of the driving force in some respects of the plot is that he is trying to track down the same shark that killed his friend and kill the shark. And obviously, it turns into a movie about a lot more than that. But finally, at the end of the movie, they find the same jaguar shark, and of course, at this point, his son Ned, played by Owen Wilson, has been killed. Spoiler alert! And it's just all of them sort of in the front of the sub, him and all of the crew members and his family that's left, Angelica Houston, just sort of everybody who's a major character in the movie. And it's kind of like, he's a harsh, sort of off-putting character. It's a bit of an abrasive movie at times, and all of a sudden, this scene happens, and it's just a really lovely scene. And there's a Sigur Rós song underscoring it, which is really, pretty song to listen to. But he finds the shark finally, and he decides he can't kill it. Number one, because he doesn't have any dynamite, which is just funny Wes Anderson humor. But number two, because it's actually kind of a beautiful moment. In that moment, he stops being sort of the angry, cynical person that we see Steve being for the rest of the movie, and he can appreciate the beauty of the shark, and he can appreciate the beauty of sort of his surroundings, right? And the fact that he's around all these people who have stuck with him despite all of his issues and problems and failings in life. And so it becomes this nice sort of communal moment that you really don't expect, again, based on the way that the movie has gone, but it really sort of takes the movie to a whole nother level for me. I think it's Wes Anderson's most underrated movie. I really love it. And this scene is a huge reason why. Also, there's there's still great comedy in it, even though it's a more introspective scene, because Steve puts his hand over on Kate Blanchett's stomach because she's about to have a baby, and she says "Oh, in 12 years he'll be 11 and a half," and Steve goes, "That's my favorite age." It's just a funny moment in the scene, but also the emotion in it as well. So.
Yeah, I rewatched this for the first time a long time earlier this year. The movie as a whole isn't like a higher rated Wes Anderson for me. But yeah, this is a solid sweet scene. It's really sweet. Just like you said, it kind of brings everybody who's left together with him, and he has this moment where he kind of becomes the purest version of himself because he realized, like you said, he's back to what he's his whole purpose supposedly is to find these creatures and connect with them. And he does that here, so I think it's pretty cool. And like you said, he's been through the death of his son and all the emotional beats. And he's kind of connecting with all the people he hasn't been able to connect with. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other Wes Anderson scenes that I would put on this list, but I think this is probably one of the best ones from this movie. So if you're going to put one from this movie again, decent choice. Everybody else on the jaguar shark from Life Aquatic.
I haven't seen this.
Fantastic scene, fantastic movie, fantastic filmmaker. I think this is a great scene. I really like the scene. There are a couple that I prefer, but this is definitely just the most quietest, but in a nice retrospective sort of way, where he just sort of realizes that there's no point in killing this creature anymore. I can appreciate the beauty. Basically, what Scott has been saying. I just think that people should like Wes Anderson's films more because he's an actually kind of an interesting filmmaker that we should respect and appreciate exists.
Asswipe director, asswipe movie, probably asswipe scene. He probably cares more about look at the shark and what it's doing versus my actual screenplay and the people talking. So no, thank you.
So you haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. There's no point to see this.
Yeah, Wes Anderson. Never mind.
No,
I've seen 5 of his films, and they're garbage.
Maybe the other ones are good. You'll never know.
Fantastic Mr. Fox sucked.
Great film.
Number 56. I have the triple axle scene from I, Tonya. I love this movie. And I will say about this scene, it's not like necessarily a scene that has like a lot of deeper resonance to it. It's just like an awesome scene to watch and like a really sort of pump you up motivational type scene. Because obviously everyone is telling Tanya that she can't do it, especially her mother. She like hires a dude to stand there and boo her right before she's about to go on the ice to attempt the triple axel. And so she's not in the right frame of mind. But she goes out there, and it's this great build up with her sort of giving a voiceover, and then she nails the trick. And actually, it's VFX, the actual performance of the trick, because it's so hard to do that like couldn't really find anyone to do it. But it you wouldn't really notice because it's done very smoothly. But then just like the slow motion of her like skating up with like the triumphant look on her face. It's like the only time she really gets to have a win in the whole movie. And just that brief hold on her face there. Again, it's like it's so brief, it's so fleeting. But you really feel for her in that moment that she's finally, achieved what she wanted to. And then like it snaps out of the slow-mo, and like you hear Feels Like the First Time by Foreigner as she's like skating around, and it's like just a great use of the song, and again just kind of a fist pumping moment in a movie that doesn't necessarily have a lot of those, but a movie I love nonetheless. So this is just kind of a personal enjoyment scene, I guess, is why it makes the list.
Yeah, you mean.
I think what sports movies, sports biopics do, biopics in general, but sports ones especially, what they do best is when they take a character that's kind of unlikable, and then they just show like the drive they have, and they kind of put you in a position where you like have to respect it, even though you might not like the person, might not like what they've done or how they've gotten there. Like you respect that, and they give you that moment. They share that, you share that moment with them. And I think it does this really well. I love this movie. I think it's great. I think she's great in it. And yeah, like this, it looks real. Like it looks fantastic, and it recreates this, the actual scene really well. Like you said, the song is just like it has like that like movie, and then like that movie moment, and then it goes back when it hits that song, like it's basically back into her character and who she is. So yeah, like I said, I love this movie, and I think this is probably the right pick of scenes, or at least a handful of scenes from this. Everybody else on the triple axel?
Good pick from the movie. Didn't make my top 100. I've only seen the film once. I want to rewatch it, but yeah, no, solid pick.
I haven't seen this movie since the theater, and I remember liking it, but as the years have gone by, it's sort of just gone down for me, and now I just have no interest in the movie.
If it, just to let everybody know, if it did make Jack's list, it would have been a yikes. Other than that, yeah, I just have never gravitated towards that movie. I guess just because of ingrained in sports knowledge for so long about the incident and everything, and even finding out like not crazy. I rewatched the scene while you were talking. I think it's a cool scene, but it just doesn't get over that level. I think the performances in the movies are great, and I think there's some good performance scenes from this. But maybe I guess this one, like technical and looking wise, it would be like the best for a scene list, but it wouldn't make mine.
Yeah, the scene where she's in the courtroom is also a close. If you're talking about like the acting, is probably a close second as well. But okay, my 55, another sort of sports adjacent movie. It's Everybody Wants Some, the baseball practice scene. So, I mean, obviously, this is one of my favorite movies. I've talked about it a lot. What I love is that the movie really sets up all of the characters for a long time before we ever see them play baseball. Like, we know, obviously, they're on a baseball team. They talk about baseball a lot. They're like classic baseball dudes, but we don't actually see them play baseball until pretty deep into the movie. And I think that just makes it so much more engaging and enjoyable when we actually do get to the baseball scene, because we understand all of their personalities now, and it's fascinating to watch how all of those dynamics play out in that competitive atmosphere that is clearly driving all of them so much. Yes, Paul mentions that "Whip It" is used in the scene, the Devo song, which is great. And there's so many little like scenes within the scene which are so perfect. Like you have them pointing out the scout, like the master of disguise, Pete Ward, who's supposedly painting the house outside the stadium. They're like, there he is, Pete Ward. Um, and you have like the whole thing that goes on between Mick Reynolds and Jay Niles. Jay Niles being the crazy pitcher, and them sort of having a duel, and Jay Niles just being insane and throwing a baseball out of the stadium completely like he's Trevor Bauer. Um, and Mick Reynolds just like being done with his crap, really, and finally, taking him deep, and that sort of moment where they make up and he just like slaps him on the butt. And Mick Reynolds is just like so annoyed with the guy. But yeah, there's so many fun moments in this scene. Finally, it ends up right with them doing the freshman batting practice, right, which is where they tape them to the fence and start hitting baseballs at the fence, like trying to hit them. And so, like I said, there's a lot of fun moments and little scenes within the scene, but also it's great, like to see all of the character dynamics, like Mick Reynolds, the tryhard, right, Jay Niles, the crazy guy, um, so on and so forth. Finn, like the weird mad scientist. All of that play out on the baseball field, which obviously a lot of the movie is building towards.
Okay, talking about the scene only. Funny scene. I enjoy it. I think it's probably the most enjoyable scene. I think it's the most likable these characters, not necessarily likable, but enjoyable to watch these characters are. Especially what's the crazy pitcher's name again?
Jay Niles. Yeah.
Jay Niles, yeah, he's the highlight of it. Like just him, all the goofy stuff he's doing, but everybody interacting with him, and just watching like all the team camaraderie stuff is fun too. So yeah, good scene. Everybody else on the baseball practice for everybody wants something.
I haven't.
Great scene. Wish I would have watched it or rewatched it for this list, but that's a really great scene. It would probably be the one I would have picked.
I have seen this movie. I very much enjoy it. I like the scene. I think it's pretty good. Baseball, sports. This movie actually makes me kind of enjoy it more than I ever thought I would. So there's something for that.
Yeah, and I said I haven't seen this scene or this movie. So.
All right, Scott, number 54.
Fix that, Jack. All right. This actually worked out perfectly. So 54, I have my favorite scene from my favorite horror movie of all time. This is the monologue into the camera from the Blair Witch Project. The like greatest example of someone you really believing someone is in like genuine actual terror that I've ever seen in a movie. And it's like, of course, the insane like history surrounding this movie is that Heather Donahue's performance was like so reviled that she basically never worked in a significant film again, even though her performance in this, like I said, is like the closest you will get to seeing like real fear from an actor. And again, they were actually out there in the woods filming it for a while. They were not in the ideal filming circumstances, so I'm sure some of that played a role in it as well. But this is basically when everything has gone to hell, and she's basically started to accept that she's never getting out of this forest. She's never getting out of the woods, and so it's kind of her last, letter diary note to her family, and you can just see like again the pure fear in her eyes, and the camera is just shoved right up into her face. There's like snot coming out. Like again, it's all there on the screen. And just her being so paranoid about it to the point that like she gets to do her monologue there for like a minute and a half, and then all of a sudden she just like breaks off and is like, what's that noise? And you don't even hear anything really when you're watching it, so you don't even know if there's something out, like if she actually did hear something, or if she's just so in her head at this point that it's like she can't even have a single moment of introspection, because whatever is out there is still like looming large and close by, and who knows what it is and what it looks like. And again, obviously that's the brilliance of the movie. So I think it's insane, honestly, watching it nowadays, that Heather Donahue's performance would have been anything but like celebrated. But really, just the whole scene and the whole movie is perfect. And this again, her portrayal of real fear in this scene, you understand why people thought that this actually happened when you watch a scene like this, because she looks scared as hell.
Yeah, no, this is. I mean, this scene is unfairly, I think, just looked back at now because it's been like spoofed and mocked so much that it's people kind of look at it as a joke. But the first time you watch this movie, it's terrifying. And like you said, this character is so throughout the movie, like, okay, we just gotta keep walking, we'll be fine. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing out here. We're by ourselves. Let's just get home. And like this moment of acceptance is so heartbreaking because, like you said, she knows now this is real and it's never happening. We're not getting out of here. And you hear again, this is another movie you hear stories about. I don't know how much they're true about kind of how they were left out there, and abuse is probably too strong a word, but they were kind of messed with to the point where to push to get these performances from them while they were cut out in the wilderness and left to their own devices. And I think all three of them, I mean, I think she's probably the best performance, but I think all three of them kind of got a raw deal. Just this being their first movie and the way it was marketed, I don't think any of them ever had really a chance to get out from under this movie. And it's a shame because they were all good, but I don't think any of them ever really did anything after this. But yeah, no, fantastic scene and a fantastic movie. Everybody else on the Blair Witch monologue?
I haven't seen this movie.
Ooh.
I've seen scenes from this movie. I've never seen the whole film.
Jack, you're not missing anything. This movie is literally laughable. It's just laughable at this point in time. Like, I get it at the time. You can say what you want about this film at the time. Yeah, I bet it was groundbreaking. This scene is laughable. Like, uncomfortable laughing at this scene because she is terrible. Overall, the entire movie is really bad. The movie's set up bad. The movie is explained really bad. And then overall, her snot bubble's the best thing about the whole film. Like, when she snots, no one snots better than this woman right here. But overall, best scene, best monologue from a horror film? Please! That's a joke.
You know who's on your side with this one? Sub-T.
Huh?
Sub-T agrees with you on this one.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. When you saw this originally, I get everything. But I'm not the horror guy. So general, for, I guess, big horror fans, check it out because it's the first found footage film. But over than that, don't check it out. Like, it does not live up to any of the hype that movie has.
Okay. So that was Scott's...
Like King Kong 33.
Oh, my God. 54 for Scott. So we go back to... we'll come back around to Jack for his 53.
All right. My 53 is The Last Duel from The Last Duel. Yeah. This scene is phenomenal. Having this in the theater with my brother, we don't like to talk about that, though. This is one of the best scenes I've seen in a theater in my life. It's incredible. It's absolutely brutal. And it's the moment that seals the scene as truly phenomenal is the look that Matt Damon gives Jodie Comer at the end, where you don't know if he even believes her at all. And the sheer brutality of this scene where when he stabs Adam Driver through the mouth, where he stabs Jacques Legris through the mouth, killing him, just one of the most incredible things that I've seen put to film, and it's a crime, an absolute crime that they got 0 nominations at the Oscars, because it should have been like Best Director nominated. It's incredible. This scene, I could watch it at any point in the day. Like, it's one of the best battle scenes in recent memory for me. Fantastic.
Yeah, no, this is a great scene. And you're right. Watch this in the theater it was exhausting. It was just so it was just it felt like work, not in a good way or not in a bad way because it just goes on forever, and and you don't know how it's going to end. You know what's at stake. If it goes a certain way, and there's just so many like false finishes in it where it looks like he's dead or he killed him or whatever, and it just goes on and on. And just her performance watching this and kind of have to just accept whatever happens, and then the two of them, Matt Damon doing it mostly like defending her, but also like doing it for himself more than anything, and just and the movie having told you all of their perspectives leading up to this kind of adds so much more to it because exactly what they're thinking and why they're doing it. I think that was really a brilliant way to tell the story, and it's a great climax for it. But like I said, holy crap, that fight just goes on and on and on, and it's not like it doesn't drag. It's really well paced. It's just you're just God, let this end because it's just so brutal to watch. Everybody else on The Last Duel in The Last Duel.
Yeah, great scene. I only laughed because of where it was and where Eugene was. I think it's funny. But the reason why this movie was made perfectly for me. I knew when it came out, I was really worried about the overhype. And I agree. I think this movie was very underseen by a lot of people, and I think it deserves a lot more eyes on it. I think it's brilliant. When she steps forward at the end, like to make sure, like she shows her presence, like at the like what's in this basically, and then you be damned as he shoves the sword through him is just like because like he's trying to like work his way out of it. Basically, because of his political pull, basically the entire movie of how he can talk his way out of any situations, and he just sentences him down to death right then. And I think it's a brilliant ending to this movie. I think this movie is just brilliant how it's shot overall. So, good choice.
Great, really, really, really good scene. Great movie. Like I echo Cody's sentiment. Like I wish more people had seen this movie, and I wish with Jack, like it got more attention at the Oscars. I don't know if this is the scene I would pick personally, but it is definitely like a great climax, sort of the resolution of what we've been told and what we've seen. So I definitely like it as a scene to end, like the climax. I don't know. I think it's a really good scene.
Yeah, well, the problem was that they campaigned the wrong Ridley Scott movie for Oscars. Even though I like House of Gucci, this is clearly the better film. But yeah, it's a great pick. It's a great movie. I totally agree. The way that everything leads up to this scene, and then the final moment, Matt Damon like covered in blood and everything, and beaten to a pulp basically, and they're looking at each other, and you realize he was in this for this freaking land the whole time. He never cared about her or her honor or any of that. And so there's just sort of that haunting, sort of soul crushing moment at the end of it when you realize all of this duel was for nothing, right? Like it's a well constructed, well choreographed fight scene and everything, but you really get no pleasure out of watching it because it shouldn't be happening, and there's no good result that comes out of this, except I guess that Marguerite, Jodie Comer's character, gets to live because of what happened. But that is really the bare minimum. So that's exactly the perfect, that's how you should feel during this scene. It shouldn't be like an epic gladiator style, like let's freaking go type action scene. So they got that right.
Yeah. All right, Cody, what is your number 53?
53, it was Yikes earlier. It's the mess around scene from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
And that was, I think, my top 191.
Yeah. Practical comedy of how John Candy is able to, in the scene of just like, it goes on this full-on like concert routine of playing the mess around as he's like singing and dancing through the entire thing, where it leads. Basically, the whole scene is where I'm talking about, is the scene where he mess around, but he's also driving ends up going into the wrong way on traffic, ends up playing the mess around. And then Steve Martin's trying to sleep and he's blaring this music, dancing around, ends up, and I think it's just a brilliant scene of him copying like how he's interacting the entire time in the car. So, Jake, I'll let you take it from here because I've talked about this movie ad nauseam.
Yeah, so I had it at 93. I just love the comedic like genius of the idea of you have them going literally the wrong way on the road, and you have the other car like honking at them like you're going the wrong way, and then John Candy's like they're drunk. How do they know where we're going? Yeah, how do they know? You got that sort of shit, and then when they go through the trucks and just sort of the madness in both their eyes, they see each other. Like you have the visual gag of Steve Martin as a skeleton, and then Steve Martin sees John Candy as the fucking devil. It's just like so fucking perfect, and that is just one of my favorite visual gags ever. Just John Candy laughing maniacally as dressed up as the devil, as Satan. It will never leave me as far as I'm concerned. Hilarious scene, and just the stuff that John Candy does in that scene is just really funny. The part where he goes is incredible. A great gif I use a lot of times.
Yeah, we talked about this movie a little bit earlier, and John Candy, the thing that sets him apart is his sincerity and his authenticity. How he's funny, but he's also very real. Like I think of a lot of other comedians, if you put them in this scene, just how over the top it would have been, and how kind of ridiculous, and how that would have just taken away from it. And I think he's one of the few that could make this work. And the whole movie, but again, like this kind of comedic moment is just so perfectly tailored for him and what he does. Jack and Scott, you guys did not have this. What are your thoughts on this scene in particular?
I love this scene, but I limited myself to one per film, so it didn't make the list.
And I still haven't seen it since it came up earlier in the show tonight.
All right, Jake.
What have you been doing?
Give us your
watching the Hornets.
My number 53. My number 53 is my favorite car chase ever, I would probably say. Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof, the final car chase. I know Cody's going to say this movie sucks, but we're talking about the scene, not the movie. This is just incredible filmmaking, and I wish Tarantino made something like this. Like, I don't think he will. He says he's going to make one more movie, which is upsetting. But as far as like car chases goes, this is one of the best. It starts with the three girls: Rosario Dawson, I can't remember, Zoe Bell, I can't remember what's her name. I just looked it up.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Tracy Thomas. They're test driving the Vanishing Point car, which they looked at, and they decided to play this game where Zoe Bell is riding on the hood of the car. For shits and giggles, whether it's a game they like to play, Zoe Bell playing herself, which is amazing. And Stuntman Mike is with his binoculars seeing them and is like, I'm going to have some fun, and decides to fuck with them, essentially. Crashes into them, and he basically, it's like, predator prey sort of situation of him just like destroying the car. And Zoe Bell is doing everything that you're seeing in the film. Like the way she's still holding on, there's no wires. She's just, it is crazy how they did it. I mean, Zoe Bell was one of the best like stunt actors like currently working today. And then that part ends with her flying off the hood, and then I think it's Zoe. It could be Tracy shoots fucking Kirk Russell in the arm, and he drives off. And then you see the part where they all think Zoe Bell's dead, and she's like, "I'm okay, all good." And then they all decide to go and get revenge against the guy. And as he's waiting, they just smash into his car, and then it's inverted. Now they're the hunters, and he's the hunted. And we have the scene where he is just whining, and he's just like crying. He's like, "I'm sorry, it was just a joke." And this whole scene now, Tracy Thomas just like goes full on mental and just is like just deranged and just constantly bashing into him. There's a part where they go onto the highway, which is really great. That's just the way that it's designed, and like I'm just thinking continuity and editing, the way it's still like perfectly feels like the actual chase. And then there's Italian music that plays throughout the scene, which I would listen to like a bunch back in like the 2015. And it's just then it ends with them smashing the car, tumbling over it, and then you have I love that Michael Cameron, and then them just beating the shit out of him, and then it ends with them jumping up in the air, and then the end, like a perfect ending. A perfect like 20-minute long scene of just two great car chases, and then an ending where they triumph over stuntman Mike, and it's fantastic. The stunts and the choreography and the chase is brilliant, and I think this is definitely his most underappreciated movie. Maybe Jackie Brown, but this is definitely my favorite as far as like his underappreciated films goes, which is crazy to say about Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tarantino's revenge fantasy era, and I think it like starts with this. I mean, it's basically two halves, and the beginning with her out on the hood is really fun because it's like you said, like it just heads a whole other where like somebody's actually out. They're not just being chased; there's somebody on the outside of the car, and not only do they have to get away, but they have to keep this person on the car, keep him alive. And then when it like when they flip the script on him, like I just love that scene where he's like just. He's built up this facade, this character the whole time, and then like that just completely crumbles and fades away, and he's just breaking down and crying like a baby, and then like they just again the revenge portion just goes on forever. But like that's what's great about it is he finds these like victims that like you want to see pay, so like it's okay, like you're fine with it going on for a long time because you want to see everything that happens to him. So yeah, I don't love the movie. I mean, I think he's called it his worst, so I'll take his word for it. But that doesn't mean I think it's terrible. I just don't think it's that great. But I think like the ending is pretty intense, pretty fun. Everybody else on the car chase from Death Proof.
Of Tarantino's films, it's my least favorite, but this is a really fun scene. Definitely the scene you're gonna pick if you're gonna pick a scene from this movie. So yeah, don't hate it, but wouldn't make my top 100.
It's just a cool ass movie. Like this is just Tarantino saying, I'm just going to make a movie and just do a bunch of cool shit that I want to do. Like he gets the freaking car from Vanishing Point and like they're just out there doing it. And there's nothing to the movie except, we have a crazy guy who kills women by crashing into their cars. And now here's a group of women who say, we're not going to be killed. And in fact, we're going to turn the tables on you and do exactly what you've done to you. And yeah, it's just it's fun, it's thrilling to watch, it's exciting because how authentic it is and how much Tarantino is sort of like paying homage to all of these old car chase flicks that obviously have influenced him. So great pick.
The movie is black. The scene is pretty cool.
Okay. I think you're muted, Kirk. But...
You're 53, Scott.
This has just become the series of mentioning Mission Impossible scenes, but I promise this is my last one. It's the best one, in my opinion, the helicopter chase and cliff fight from Mission Impossible Fallout. Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty hard to beat, in my opinion. You have Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill going at each other in the helicopters first, and then, they crash. They're skidding like off the edge of the cliff, basically. We also have the explosion that's about to happen. And like it's cross-cutting between them fighting and then like Benji and Ilsa trying to who are fighting the one guy and are like tied up. And I guess it's one of them is like hanging basically. And so there's two pretty awesome action scenes going on sort of at the same time. And they're fighting on the edge of the cliff and he's skidding to the cliff and you have the detonator and it's like 1 second and he's got to, it's all the Mission Impossible type stuff. Like it is one of the moments where you really feel like, oh, they're not actually going to be able to complete the mission because there's so much that has to go perfectly. But it's so exciting to watch the effects, the fact, that's Tom Cruise up there. And it is really just one thing after the other, just continuously escalating and raising the bar. And it feels like, again, Mission Impossible, of all the great action scenes in the series, it feels like this is the one where they just kind of threw the whole kitchen sink in, and we're going to do the best of everything that we've ever done in this franchise, and it works beautifully.
It's a good action scene. Honestly, like, I don't need Tom Cruise to pilot the helicopter himself. Like, if I found out that was a stunt pilot, I'd be fine with it. I'm okay with little movie magic. And I think it heard, like, this is the scene right where they have that one part where, like, it's on that, like, weird, like, camera under the helicopter because it's the only way they can film it.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that kind of stuff, like, hurts the movie. Like, I'd rather it be fake and be able for it to look right. But it's not a bad scene. It's a fun action scene. Like I said, just for me personally, like, the reality, all these Mission Impossible things, like, I don't need him climbing the buildings for whatever. Like, stuntmen need to work too. Everybody else on the Mission Impossible Fallout helicopter chase.
Almost made the list. It was that and the Halo jump for me. So I just went with the other one. So.
Good scene. I don't really have much to say about the scene. I feel like everyone's talked about it at this point. I do like the part where Henry Cavill, he plays the Hammer, that's what I was thinking of. Henry Cavill gets, like, scarred on the side, and he has that, like, evil bad guy looking motherfucker that looked to him. I just wish there was a little bit more one-on-one hand-to-hand combat, but that scene is so long that I, like, understand, like, you gotta cut some stuff, or you gotta, keep it short to a certain degree. But it's a good scene, just not I really care too much for.
People should be excited if Henry Cavill's, like, gonna go do a spy movie instead of becoming Superman, because I think this is a movie, like, he's brilliant in. This is the correct scene. If you're going to pick a scene from Fallout, this is absolutely the scene that I would have picked. The skydiving's cool, but we've seen him do that. But dueling helicopters back to back, that's kind of awesome. So, good choice.
All right, Jack, 52.
All right. My 52 is Not Quite My Tempo from Whiplash. Rushing and dragging, not quite my tempo.
Another that I have to follow Jack. Yay. Go for it.
This scene is brilliant. It's perfectly set up with J.K. Simmons just chatting with Miles Teller, getting to know him, and then the second they start playing music here, he just turns. He starts getting closer and closer to him slowly as he keeps stopping him, saying, "Rushing. Dragging, just a hair." And then he breaks and he starts using everything that he had talked to Andrew about moments before against him, and he starts slapping shit at him. He throws a chair at him. It's a scene that's been talked to death about, but I can't get enough of it. I love it. It's my favorite scene from the film, followed very closely behind by Caravan, but it's just I love this scene so much. I could watch it at any point. Incredible scene.
J.K. Simmons, I don't think gets enough credit for this kind of, like, acting that he does. Like, what?
I'm just saying the same thing Jake is. Go ahead.
I mean, he won an Oscar for it.
He won an Oscar for it.
That's not what I'm saying. Yes, he's won an Oscar for this performance, but, like, this is the perfect. I guess I should rephrase. This is what he's like peak acting wise. I don't think like this is. I've said this before. This is the similar character that he plays in Oz. This ruthless asshole that makes you comfortable in the setting that you're in, and then flips it on its head and makes it completely uncomfortable. Just the ruthless of the scene. I think the problem with the scene is it's one of the most overplayed scenes from the movie, like, because it's shown everywhere. It's a shocking thing. He smacks the shit out of him, and he's like, "So you do know the difference?" Like that side of him, like, because he's played like a dad in films, and he's like the insurance guy, the farmer's guy. Like, he's like now has this like nice motif. But when he comes back into like ruthless J.K. Simmons, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And the scene is like one of those because how he starts, he's like, "Oh, you're good, nothing," and then he just fucking launches the chair and said, like that's just like the ultimate like anger that comes from him. There was a similar scene that I wanted to pick, but I think this is the one that I had to end up going with from this movie. So, yeah.
I won't say too much because I've talked about the scene a lot because I've talked about how much I love this movie. This scene is great. But J.K. Simmons and Jack touched on it. What gets me is how it just highlights what a complete psychopath he is. Because he goes out and he has that conversation and then he comes back and just uses all that information he got. And that's what he was doing. He was fishing for this information that he could use to destroy this kid. And I think Boatman talks about a lot too, that scene later on where he's talking to that little girl and he's like, "Hey, you going to come play with me someday?" And that's what makes that so chilling is that how he uses people. And the whole build up to this, like when he's yelling at the other kid about being out of tune, and then how he like how he plays it. He starts out nice, not quite my tempo. Let's try it again, and then just loses out of nowhere. Just so perfectly played. And Teller's like great in this too because he kind of just is like turns himself into a blubbering mess. I don't think his performance throughout the movie is necessarily holds up to Simmons, but I think in this scene like he just does exactly what he has to do. So fantastic scene, definitely belongs to top 100. Jake, Scott, explain to me why it's not here.
I mean, this is a fantastic movie. This is great. I do like the scene. It's definitely like one of the most talked about scenes from the 2010s, which is not against the scene, but it's just like I don't really know what else I can add outside of JK is fantastic and just the visceral sort of like energy that the scene has. I don't want to spoil too much, but I do have a scene from this movie later on. But I do think this is a fantastic scene. So I can't really say much about it. It is great.
Yeah, same. I do have another scene from the movie. I do think there's a better scene. This scene is great, but I kind of reserved the multiple scenes from the same movie for like 3 or 4 of my very favorite movies, and this doesn't necessarily meet that criteria. So that's why it doesn't make it, not because it isn't great.
All right, Cody, take us to your number 52.
Don't put it right up on the screen, but no, wait a second. Okay. So there's a movie that I love, and there's some scenes from this movie that get talked about a lot. There's a very simple, like, subdued scene that I love the most, and it's from Spotlight. It's when Robbie goes to Jim Sullivan's house at the very end of the film and basically corners him and tells him, like, we're not going to run the story until we get confirmation from you. And he said, get out of my damn house. And he leaves, and then he walks out of the house and he said, what took you so long? We knew something was wrong for so long. Why didn't you? And then basically tells him, give me the damn papers. And he circles both columns of both names, which is not something that's like maybe like as crazy for some, but for me is like, it's the confirmation to the movie that is like, that's all of them. That's everyone that they have to, instead of running false evidence, like, tell me everyone on it. And he looks over the list and circles both of them and hands it back to him, and just, it's a walk off. And you just look down at both pieces of paper and both columns are signed. It's not a long scene. It's not built up, but it's like everything in that movie. And since it's based on also a true story, it's like a guts, like it hurts you to see, because that's how many they covered up for. That's how many they moved along. That's how many they let continue doing what they did. And it was basically everybody in Boston knew something was going on, but no one wanted to say anything. And then this is the story that ran in the circle. I think it's an absolutely brilliant scene. So,
nobody else had this?
no. I didn't expect anybody to. No.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I've talked about this movie. It doesn't hit for me like it does for everybody else. Just the whole procedural thing is not something I get super excited about. I watched the scene again, just to see what this is, and like I just feel like this is a movie that has like a lot of gotcha moments. So to pick this one out of some others, I just don't know if it stands that high above any others in the movie. But again, that's just me. Everybody else on the spotlight scene.
I've not seen the movie since 2015, mainly because I resent this film winning Best Picture over The Revenant. I do not remember the scene.
You deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knows. I think this movie's flawless. Every scene, every performance, everything in it. So I'm not going to say no to any scene that you pick. I think Jamie Sheridan, who plays Sullivan, like I think I mean, everyone in the movie is so good, but the little character actors and stuff like that really make it, and he's one example of that. Obviously, there is at least one scene from this movie coming up for me, as you'd probably expect. But yeah, it's a good scene, and it crystallizes, like you're saying, that this movie is as much about why was this never reported as it is like the seriousness of the actual story itself. And there are so many, jaw-dropping moments of where they discover how deep and how far it actually goes. And this is another one of those.
Yeah, this film is brilliant. It had been a few years since I had seen it, and then I got to rewatch it earlier this year with a few people from Multiplex, and it was a hell of an experience. This scene is fantastic. I thought of putting a good number of scenes from this film on there, but no, it's a great pick, Cody.
All right, that takes us to Jake's number 52.
Hey, don't reveal it, but I want it to be a surprise until I say it. So, I love movies that open with the opening logo and then it sort of transitions into the movie. I love seeing that when with films. The Columbia logo appears, and we zoom in on the clouds as Korn starts to play. We go into an airplane, and then we go through this airplane, and out of the bathroom comes LL Cool J in some African robe or whatever he's wearing in the opening of Charlie's Angels. I fucking love this opening. This is McGee's directorial debut. I think he absolutely is amazing when it comes to his filmmaking and his style. This whole sequence is done in one take. I love one takes. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but one takes are awesome and they're great. And this is done in that one take. We go through the airplane. There's so many just weird visual gags going on with like all the people on the plane. It's really bizarre. We see two people, a guy and a girl, go into a bathroom. I wonder what's going to happen. And LL Cool J just shows up. LL Cool J, don't call him comeback, guys. He's been here for years. And he goes into the first class section, sits next to this guy who's got a bomb. And then you have the whole little, they have like, I hear only angels or something like that. He talks about angels. And it's like, haha. And then here's diamonds, and you see all the shit and the bomb, and you're like, okay. And they're watching TV, and it's T.J. Hooker, the movie, and you have the line from the guy like, another TV show from the 80s being turned into a movie. Fucking great. I love Michael's comment there. And they're just like, well, what are you going to do? And he just looks at his watch, he goes, walk out. And he's like, very funny. It wasn't. And then grabs the guy, and they jump out of the airplane as fucking Motley Crue plays. I believe the song's Live Wire. And we have this great skydiving sequence, better than the Halo jump from Mission Impossible fucking Fallout. I'm calling it now. And as they fall down, you see Lucy Liu come straight for him. And it's just fucking fun. This is how you open a movie. Exciting, the energy. It just gets you fucking pumped. The music, the camera work, it's just great. And you have fucking Cameron Diaz in the speedboat catching them. The reveal of the face mask, like Mission Impossible. With Drew Barrymore as LL Cool J, it turns out. And it's just perfect. It's just like indicative. It's just like a great microcosm of the movie and what's to come. Madness, just pure crazy, exciting, entertaining action. And it's fun. And it's not taking itself seriously and doesn't need to because it's fun and funny and great.
Okay. Once again, Jake is completely overselling his scene. He talks about it being an all one take, like it's Alfonso Cuarón or something. They walk around in a circle as the camera follows them. It's just a lap around.
Oversimplifying choreography.
That's all it is. The TJ Hooker joke is like, yeah, just because you admit it's a dumb idea to remake these old 70s shows doesn't mean it's not a dumb idea to remake these old 70s shows. Pointing out doesn't help. And they jump out the plane, and it's again another case of pretty bad editing for an action scene. They're all surrounding this bomb. They're all like three people are like right at this bomb, and it blows up, and somehow all three of them are fine.
It wasn't right next to them. They threw it up. It was
they're right there when it explodes and it goes off.
Right there.
The effects are terrible. The effects are garbage. And they go down and they land. And does Drew Barrymore in the LL Cool J mask count as blackface?
No.
I hope so, because I just want to get this movie canceled because it sucks. Jake, I don't know how you do this. Like, your picks are either like this like weird just rubber or guys covered in crap, or it's like the just most generic vanilla action scenes, and somehow they're all terrible. I just don't know how you like don't get you're so off on both sides. Like, you can't get either one right. This is a bad scene. Everybody else on the opening of Charlie's Angels.
I'll back you up, Jake. This movie's great. I thoroughly enjoy the opening as well. It sets up the campy tone. I don't mind if the effects are bad or whatever. Like, that's part of the charm of the movie, I think. I just hope that you have the fight scene with Crispin Glover later on your list, because if not, I will be slightly disappointed. But yeah, this movie is a hoot.
Yeah.
I literally paused for how long? Just talk, Jack.
No, okay, fine. I've never seen this full movie. I've seen clips. Move on.
Wow, that could have just been skip. Anyways, I am under the impression that the opening of this movie was Cameron Diaz dancing in her underwear. Apparently, that was just me, 10-year-old me thought.
Different scene. Yeah.
Well, that was like me, 10-year-old me thought in 2000, because I have not watched this movie since, and don't plan on it. Didn't know LL Cool J was in the film, so there you go.
All right, Scott, what is your number 52?
My number 52. I can't believe this is following Charlie's Angels, but it's from There Will Be Blood. It's the I've Abandoned My Child scene. Okay.
Can we get Zach Ford on here to do the reenacting?
Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt that. But I mean, this movie contains, in my opinion, two of the number one performance of all time for me, and then also another performance that I would put in my top 100 performances. And obviously they're both on display in this scene. And it's so well done because, Daniel Plainview has come to the church just out of obligation because he has to get what he wants, basically. But Eli is basically going to make an example out of him and brings him up there and starts haranguing him in front of the whole church. And at first, Daniel Plainview is just kind of biting his tongue, like not wanting to go along with it. Not really wanting to engage, just kind of doing the bare minimum to satisfy Eli. And then all of a sudden, as the intensity starts ramping up, he actually starts like feeling the weight of Eli Sunday's words and by extension, his own actions towards HW, his son, and everything he's done since coming to the town. And as he does so, his cries, his shouting becomes more impassioned. Obviously, everyone knows the screaming of "I've abandoned my child," and it is acting of the highest quality, of the highest order, and just such an incredibly evocative, intense scene. That really relies on the strength of the performances, but also, of course, the direction of Paul Thomas Anderson to get those performances out of those actors. It's just an unforgettable scene. There's not really much else to say.
I rewatched this. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. I rewatched the scene, and it's just crazy because I watched Age of Innocence, rewatched that a couple weeks ago, and just watching that and then watching this and thinking that's the same guy. It's just it's amazing what he's able to do. And this scene's crazy, like you said, the way it ramps up. And I have to go back and rewatch it because I don't remember all the context. So I really don't know how to interpret some of the performance because it seems like it does at first, like you could tell he's going through emotions, like you said, he starts to get into it, but I don't know. I really can't tell at that point for me if he's like just selling it or if he's really starting to feel something, because then when he starts getting slapped, he's kind of like mocking him, like, oh, there it is, like he's kind of making a joke of it once he starts getting slapped. So it's kind of, his it's all over the place, not in a negative way, but like just like his what he's feeling and what he's going through there. But he's doing a lot. And that's what Daniel Day-Lewis can do. He can do a lot and not feel like a lot. Because there are a lot of actors out there who take the scene as like, oh, acting. And somehow he doesn't like get to that point. Like it's all still has like a realness to it. And yeah, it's a great scene. Like I said, even watching out of context, like I did, just so much fun to watch him act. Everybody else on the Abandoned My Child.
Fantastic scene, fantastic movie. This is one of the scenes that I kind of wish I added to my top 100. There's another scene also that I would have liked. I just completely blanked and missed it. This is the scene where Daniel Day-Lewis wins his Oscar. It's one of my favorite performances ever. He's fantastic. Obviously, he's Daniel Day-Lewis. It's hard to really talk too much about. I mean, Scott perfectly explains why this scene is great.
So, first, this is another movie I saw for the first time in film studies in high school, and it's incredible. The scene I picked from it has been yikesed already, but this was definitely in contention. So, great pick, Scott.
Yeah, I think there's a better scene overall because I yiked it, obviously. But this is like it's one of my favorite acting performances of all time. Of the best picture, like the best actor winners, it's my fourth of all time. I think he's absolutely brilliant, especially in this movie. I get a bad rap for hating PTA, mainly self, and I do it to myself. I like a good majority of his films, but this is above all of his movies for me. I think this is his best movie by far, and then it's on the back of Dano and Daniel Day-Lewis. They're just in a league of their own in this movie. I wonder if Koho watched it on 2 times speed if he liked it more.
Final picks of the night. Jack, what's your 51?
All right. My 51 is Bye Bye Life from All That Jazz. All right. This scene is phenomenal. One of arguably what I would consider arguably the greatest musical number in movies. I've got a fair few musicals still to see. However, currently this takes the cake. It's incredible. I'm blanking on name right now, but Joe Gideon in this film
Roy
is
Scheider.
Roy Scheider. Thank you. Roy Scheider in this film is incredible, and this scene is brilliant. The editing and costume design in this scene specifically makes it almost feel like a fever dream. It's truly phenomenal. I rewatched it just after getting home from work today, and just a couple nights ago as well. I rewatched the entire film. I can't get enough of this scene. It's phenomenal. One of absolutely one of my favorite first time watches of the year. And honestly, after rewatching the film, the scene would be higher.
Took me a while to get on board with this movie, what it was doing. but by the end, like it had completely sucked me in, and I love this scene. I think it's a great musical number. I think it does such a good job of capturing what he's been through up to that point and kind of his attitude toward it. Like, just I get it, just like the acceptance of, chickens coming home to roost. I've lived my life the way I have, and now it's going to be over. And he has that scene, in the dream where he, the dream sequence where he says goodbye to everybody, and kind of like makes amends as best he can. And I think he's great, and I think Ben Vereen's really good in it. The two of them together, and I like it. Goes on for a long time. And I liked it because it maintains that energy through the whole thing. Like, it feels like it's like slowing down, then it picks up again, and it keeps going. And I think it really works. So I watched this for the first time this year too, and I really love this scene. I think it's a great climax for the movie. Everybody else on Bye Bye Life.
I just want to say one more thing. Also, that final cut of big spoiler alert for this movie. That final cut from him walking down the hallway to him being zipped up in the body bag is incredibly jarring. Just one of the biggest leaving you cold moments in a film for me. Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott. Oh, okay, I'll go. This is a fantastic movie. I saw all of Bob Fosse's movies for Blank Check, so I saw this one. I don't know if I'd call this movie a musical. I would call it a music film. Just not really the the parts that make it a musical don't really apply to this. I do think this is the best scene in the movie. I love this movie because it is Bob Fosse making a movie about himself and his life and his love and career. Joe Gideon is Bob Fosse. And the way he sort of is so self-deprecating about himself and sort of like, he thought this was going to be his last movie. It ends the way he thought his life was going to end. In a way, it kind of did, but he also made a movie after the star rating, which is kind of weird. And it's just like everything, like what Jack was saying, the way that it just like, it's this giant triumphant moment for him. And you think like this is going to lead to something good. And then just the cut straight to him with the body bag just being zipped up. Just really, really effective filmmaking there. I know Kirk, you've been talking bad about editing on some of my picks, but I think that this scene and the sequence and the movie itself is one of the best edited films of all time. The editing throughout the scene is just like incredible stuff.
Yeah, so I think this is probably like objectively the best scene from the film, and like honestly I do understand people saying even like that this is the best musical number of all time. Like I get it, honestly. I think it does go on a little too long for me. Like some of it is just too existentially freaking out. But so I think like I actually personally enjoy like the Take Off With Me, which is like the rehearsal sequence a little bit more, and the Everything Old Is New Again with his wife and daughter dancing. I also love that scene too a little bit more maybe. But it's a phenomenal movie. Like I can't blame you for having this scene. Again, I think objectively it probably is the best scene. It just maybe because it's so effective and leaves me cold, it doesn't make like my favorites list, but great movie.
I have been begged to not watch this movie. So I have yet to watch this movie because some people love it and they know probably how I'm going to react to it. But best musical sequence of all time from Jack is like, I wouldn't trust a fucking thing he says.
I would say so.
You say
I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust the thing you say either, Jake. No offense. You hold no weight either.
That's fair. I mean, I don't take your horror opinions seriously.
Yeah. Go watch the Snot monologue. It's a great film.
Can I just say, just before you say anything, Kirk, I 100% bet Michael messaged Zach and said, "Hey, they brought up the event in my chat."
As a matter of fact, he did because I was also in that chat.
Okay, 100%.
Now you guys got to ruin the bit. Just let it happen. All right, Cody, what is your 51?
It's the Watchtower. It's the Clock Tower. Blah blah blah. It's the courthouse. Back to the Future. This is a scene that is similar to the Jurassic Park scene. If I could go back and revisit this Yes, I did that for you, Boatman. One time got a trivia question wrong because that person knew the movie better than he did. Overall, I think this is absolutely just a scene I wish I could relive. I still think the effects hold up. I think the driving all the way back, the story into of warning Doc about the future and everything, what's going to go on, and the connecting of the cables, the lightning, the strike, the score, everything. The tree falling on it to break it down, so they have to go through the dramatic things. Doc hanging from the tower, like the courthouse. It's just there's something about that score that could literally, lift me out of any funk. Basically, I think it's a brilliant overall, and to see the fire from the tires and him going back is just the best scene from this movie. It's not even close for me. It's
This is it's up there with those Jurassic Park scenes and things like that. So many scenes, just like we used the term before, movie magic. Like just that, it's just how the way it's paced and the music, just the way the score is used in this. That da 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 da. I think that's the best non-John Williams score maybe ever. And just Doc, him getting the car in position, Doc, trying to get when the cord doesn't match, can't connect, when you can't pull it, and his reaction, and him looking down, and him doing the slide and get the last second, and then just how it's just such a. I talk a lot about the script for this movie, just how tight it is, and I think this scene is just so well done. It's been talked a lot about. Anybody else anything to say about the courthouse scene from Back to the Future?
It's a great scene.
Great. Didn't make my list, but it's great.
Yeah, not a movie that hits for me like it does for a lot of people, but great scene, obviously, iconic.
Sorry about that. Everybody talked about this, so we go to Jake's final pick of the night.
Okay, so number 51. A lot of us have scenes that are great scenes in bad movies. And I will fully admit, I have a great scene from a bad movie. Even though I like the movie a lot, I do think it's bad. I've picked the birth of the Sandman in Spider-Man 3.
Damn it, Jake.
He said he was going to have a normal week.
Yeah.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
There should be one for Kirk, honestly, after this. This is a great scene, and I think it's awesome. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's great. And one thing about Sam Raimi and the way he is able, one of his, I think, strengths when it comes to the trilogy is how he's able to humanize the villains. Venom, I don't really include because he had no interest in making Venom. With Sandman, it's just so endearing. It's like a short film, this whole thing, and it's all told visually. There's no dialogue. The opening shot is a bunch of rocks. It looks like a bunch of rocks just moving, and then as the camera pans out, you realize it's sand. And as it's slowly moving, it comes together. It's Flint Marko. He's trying to get himself back together. He's only able to get his upper body, and then he sees the locket of his daughter Penny, and then realizes that now I have a reason. I still have a reason to live. I still have a reason to do what I must for my child. And then he gets back up. He's able to get his legs, and then as he walks, it's just really well done. The virtual cinematography, the way it's all visuals, it's just impressive stuff for 2007. I know some of it's a little bit weird and hasn't aged well. And also there's a weird sort of plot. I don't know, a plot hole, but a mistake, I guess. Why is the locket the only thing that didn't turn to sand? Works for the movie. It's trying to tell a story. I'm okay, accept it. I'm a suspension of disbelief. I can accept that. But I also think what really works is the score, the Christopher Young score. It starts off somber, and then it becomes triumphant as he brings himself back up together, and then it becomes menacing and terrifying as he becomes he's no longer Flint Marko, he is the Sandman, and he realizes what I have to do. It's a really well done scene in a movie that people like to joke and laugh about, even though I will slightly defend. And it is a big disappointment from Spider-Man 2. but that scene is like just a really, really effective scene. And I can't remember who the critic was, but at the time when he reviewed this movie, it said that like during that scene, you just forget about anything that happened before and anything that will happen. You're just looking at the scene and realizing like this is like the power of what a film and what a filmmaker can do and convey ideas and emotions through it. And I think it's beautiful. So I'm picking that for 51.
If I ever make a bad movie, Jake, I'm going to hire you to go on the press junket and just sell it for me, because your turd polishing skills are just off the charts, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's the sand. It's the right. There's sand, and then he gets up and he walks around, and I don't care about the locket. I don't care about the locket. It's a movie. That doesn't bother me at all. But it's not a bad scene. It's fine, and
it's a beautiful scene.
Compared to this movie, it's the rest of this movie. It's
about the movie. We're talking about the scene.
I know, but I'm saying compared to the rest of the movie, it's great. It's better than pretty much anything else in this movie. But still, to have it as your 51st greatest scene of all time. I guess anybody else have anything to say about Sandman?
Oh dear God!
I mean, Jack, that means nothing to me. You don't have to.
I know. Here's the thing: this scene is good. It's one of the better scenes in the movie, but this has no business ever making a top 100 greatest scenes of all time.
Michael does make a good point. Yeah.
I hate this movie more than I hate most movies, a lot of movies, and this is probably the only part of the movie where I'm like, okay, this isn't the worst. This isn't the worst Marvel movie I've seen, but good Lord, I hate this pick so much.
I just haven't seen the movie in so long because it sours to movies that I dearly love. So I don't even remember the scene really that well. Someday I will give it another shot, but I'm not expecting much.
I like that. I love that Jake sold it the way he did, like at the beginning, where it's like, oh, it looks like rocks, because it definitely looked like the worst CGI rocks of all time, and then they form together. And I absolutely love the part of the scene where he grabs the locket and goes, "I will have legs," and then forms legs. Like it's like one of the dumbest looking scenes. Where he's like. It looks down and legs start forming. Like, it's so bad. No, this movie sucks. This scene sucks.
What? Wow.
I mean, yes. I'm sorry. Whatever you want to say, and like, is it the best? Is it one of the best scenes from this movie? Sure, but the overall movie sucks.
It's the same.
All right,
it's
Scott.
The second best scene. There's another. There's another one coming, guys.
Oh, I mean, we're gonna walk through the whole movie. Scott, take us home.
Well, I wonder if does anyone want to end early tonight? Maybe we can just do like my 51 next week or.
Well, I'm predicting this is how it's going, right? Well, this is how it's going to go. Jack's winning. I'm taking second. You're going to take third, and so we can end early if you want.
All right, I'll be taking last tonight. My number 51 is Kylo versus Luke from The Last Jedi.
Every word you just said was wrong.
Okay, before Scott talks, guys.
Oh no!
Please remember, we're talking scenes, not movie. We're at 2.5 hours.
No.
We're not the scene from the Sandman. Oh, the movie fucking sucks.
I
see.
No.
This debate's been raging for 5 years. We're not going to solve it tonight. It's 10:30.
No.
We're talking about scenes. Talk about the scene all you want.
You did this? Why did you do this?
I am dead inside.
Scene's pretty cool. Very cool, very well shot. Like, I love the environment. Kylo like scraping back the salt with his foot to like reveal the red underneath is such a cool image. And you see like the two generations clashing, right? And Luke, you see how far that character has come, and that he's aged, and apparently people had a problem with that, but that he is still like in this badass moment staring down them all at the end and staring down Kylo. And I love that exchange of dialogue, obviously, of Kylo raging at him and saying, the resistance is over, and I'm going to kill the last Jedi. And obviously that scene there that we showed, that moment that we played the clip of him saying everything you just said was wrong, and then the resistance is coming back, and we see Finn, and I will not be the last Jedi, and we see Rey, and it's such a triumphant moment. And then the fight obviously is there's not a whole lot of it, but it's well choreographed, and then sort of that WTF moment when Kylo goes to stab him, and we realize, oh, it's actually him projecting himself, and he kind of one last time gets the upper hand over Kylo and over the dark side, and it's just a perfect ending to that character's arc for me. Like, I love what Mark Hamill does in this movie. I love the direction that Rian Johnson chose to take the character in, and I think that this just really rewards the entire journey of that character in this scene. And so, yeah, I think it's awesome. And it's such a triumphant ending to the movie. It's really strange that they never made another movie, but I think that it's pretty cool that they just ended it on this note and said, yeah, you know what, we're good. We're just going to do TV shows now.
Again, the scene is not. I mean, if this is your Star Wars scene, that's kind of sad, because there's a lot better. I mean, there's so much to pick from for Star Wars. Other than this, the scene itself is. I mean, there's some interesting stuff in it. I mean, I want to see a lightsaber fight, but that's just me.
Well, you can see in other scenes. So.
Yeah. But
the Red Room.
I mean, they. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they did. Remember, they made that one. They made that one movie where they had to try to fix everything that happened in this movie. So they did make one more after this, but the scene itself isn't that bad. Everybody else, just the scene. Everybody else on that.
No, believe me, I have no interest in talking Star Wars for a lengthy period of time. I think it's very cool that when he his foot goes across the dirt, it shows red. Like, that's neat, because we haven't seen that. There are better lightsaber fights. There are better overall storytelling. Even in this movie, there's better moments. Overall, Canto Bite maybe should have shown up. But I think that's my turn to talk, Scott. Thank you, sorry. And I love that you throw some complete shit at other movies. This is the movie you chose. It's great.
I said they didn't make another movie. I wasn't throwing shit at anything. I just said
no. I didn't say right. I'm saying other ones like MCU, and you have the dare to talk about Star Wars. This movie's an abomination.
Yes,
let's just leave it there.
Phantom Menace.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? This is the best, because this one makes all the people that hate Star Wars like Star Wars for one movie only because of this.
This isn't even.
He cuts him down because it's a Force ghost, which we were taught all throughout Star Wars movies and stuff before, that all this stuff is possible. We just didn't know about it because they don't tell you. You're just supposed to oh yeah, that's how the Force works. Cool.
All I'll say is that I'm just done with talking about Star Wars, and I just don't want to say anything.
Yoda should have tried this when Dooku's Emperor's throwing shit at him. He should have just been a Force ghost, and then he wouldn't have anybody attack him. That'd be cool. But apparently that's not how that works all the time.
It's not even the best scene from that movie, and the best scene from that movie is still deeply flawed, and I hate it with a fiery passion. This movie is bad. It's a bad Star Wars movie. I hate this movie so much.
Cody, what happened to if you agree with Jack, that means you're wrong?
The scene is fine by itself.
No, I just want him to keep talking. It's just fun, because when more people hate him, it's the better for me.
For the record, I don't think the movie's bad. I think the movie's all right. I just don't really care about stuff.
Look, I put Sean Astin at number 11 in top 100 performances. Do you think I care if people hate me?
You still keep showing up.
All right, that brings us to the end of the show. First place tonight is tough. Jack and Cody both had very similar lists. They both had a Spielberg. They both had a Prince St. Automobiles. They both
What
had
you're
the
saying is
same.
I need to have a Spielberg on my list.
They both had. They both
You could
had,
even call them twins. Honestly,
They both had They both had Whiplash. So
Listen,
I had
you don't have to.
And
you don't have to build
Actually,
this up.
pretty similar.
We're over 2.5 hours. Everybody stop bickering at each other. In the aggregate, I kind of canceled everything that was the same and went through and tried to find what was better. And I think in the aggregate, Cody pulls out first place. Also, you both had the right opinion on Last Jedi. That's why you're at the top two.
That's just crazy.
But see, yeah, Cody had Amadeus, everything else. I think Amadeus and Alien, and then the days would put you over with Jack just a little bit. Other than the stuff you guys kind of crossed over on. Jack, still a great list. You had Jimbo, you had Jaws, you had Whiplash, you had a lot of great Bye Bye Love. So very close second for Jack. Third place is Scott. Scott, you had some decent picks on you. You had another Amadeus scene. You had some good stuff on there, but you mostly get third place because Jake's here. Jake is in fourth place. Charlie's Angels, The Rundown, more Booksmart. Sandman. Obviously, fourth place for Jake. We're coming back. We'll be at the halfway point next week. Watch the roundtable this week for more on what movie was it?
Night of the Hunter.
Night of the Hunter, and I'm sure a lot of other great movies. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Boy.
You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
Drunk and angry. Come on, break the lousy cup. Ow! I hit my arm.
Bob, and I'd expect everybody to do everything.
I'm going there soon,
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay and I'll go mine.